Chapter 757. At this moment, Wei Zheng and the others saw that something was wrong and hurriedly went up to the four of them. Everyone, this is not the place to talk. Perhaps Fengzi is working hard because of the paper. Let's go in first. Perhaps Fengzi will be here soon. Hearing this, Ouyang Sun and the others nodded. Along the way, they didn't even look at the old village chief. This made the old village chief a little angry, but he couldn't do anything about it. He knew that these people didn't even need to kneel when they saw the emperor. The emperor had to stand up and greet them. And him? He was just an old man. However, the old village chief didn't care. He glared at Ma Zhou and the rest. Why are you still standing there? Don't you want to work? Why is the dean's food used to feed you lazy people? If you don't do something, no one is allowed to eat today. Everyone scattered like birds and beasts. The old village head kicked Ma Zhou's buttocks hard. Why aren't you looking for Fengzi? What are you waiting for? Hearing this, Ma Zhou felt as if he had been granted amnesty and fled madly. Only then did the old village chief follow them to Zhang Feng's hut. Zhang Feng's hut wasn't far from the mountain gate. It was only a few hundred steps away. However, the closer they got, the more Wei Zheng and the rest felt that something was wrong. Logically speaking, Fengzi should be in the hut. Wei Zheng could not help but fall a few steps behind the crowd. He came in front of the village chief and asked, "Sir, is Fengzi at the paper mill? Why would he be there if he has nothing to do? I chased him away yesterday. I don't know where he is now." "Don't worry, I've already sent people to look for him. He should be." Before he could finish, Wei Zheng had already caught up with Fang Xianling and the rest. After exchanging glances with Fang Xianling and the rest, Qing Yaojin and Qin Xiong found an excuse to leave. Yu Shinan also felt that something was wrong. He looked at the familiar wooden hut and asked Gao Can, "Young friend, is Zhang Feng in the hut?" Yu Shinan's face stiffened. He didn't expect to be ignored by this big black guy. Yu Qigong exploded. "Hey, you little brat, do you know who is in front of you?" Yu Shinan, the great Confucian scholar of this era. Gao Can said in a muffled voice. Yu Qigong choked on his words and wanted to beat someone up. "Since you know that, why are you still blocking the way? The dean is sleeping, no one is allowed to disturb him." The expressions of Ouyang Sun and the others changed. Seeing this, Yu Qigong was furious. F***ck off. If you dare to talk nonsense again, be careful that Lao Tzu will beat you up. He kicked Gao Can to the side. Gao Can wanted to fight back, but he was no match for Yu Qigong. He was pinned against the wall by Yu Qigong, unable to move. Yu Qigong was also surprised. Although he was old, he was actually somewhat unable to suppress this young brat. Where did this brat find these freaks? However, now wasn't the time to ask about this. After seeing that everyone had entered the house, Yu Qigong sized up Gao Kansas. "Not bad, you're not bad. You're a potential general. How about it? Follow me?" "No, the dean said that if I follow him, I'll be a general in the future." "Bastard. Damn it. F***ck. Yu Qigong spat a few times before letting go of Gao Kansas. The two of them stared at each other at the door, neither willing to give in to the other. At this moment, as soon as they entered the room, Zhang Sun Wuji hurriedly opened the door to Zhang Feng's room. However, when he peeked in, he was almost suffocated by the stench. He hurriedly took a look at the person sleeping soundly on the bed. Then, as if he was fleeing, he blocked the others who were about to enter and said, "It's too smelly. Let's wait outside. With such a big commotion, this brat should be waking up soon." When Ouyang Sun and the others smelled the stench in the air, their expressions changed. They hurriedly left the house and sat at the door of Zhang Feng's small wooden house to wait. "Brother, you said that Fengzi handed the paper mill to you?" After the few of them sat down, Wei Zheng asked loudly, trying to divert their attention. As expected, when the few of them heard this, they looked at the old village chief. The old village chief was a little unnatural. He seemed a little guilty. He was a little afraid. This wasn't the case before entering the small wooden house. The sharp-eyed Yuchi Gong's eyelids couldn't help but twitch. Was this brat not in the house? About that, Feng Zi is too careless. Also, people are always thinking about him. For example, the wine you drank before. It's such a good thing. But a guy named Lao Li tricked him into giving him the formula. The old village chief said bitterly. Ouyang Sun and the others couldn't help but twitch the corners of their mouths. They drank that wine before. Moreover, it was given to them by Yu Shinan. They knew better than anyone how good the wine was. But what shocked them was that the emperor actually used such a method to trick others. Too shameless. But this little bastard kept such a good thing for himself. It wasn't a good thing. Ouyang Sun couldn't help but feel a sense of relief. He asked, "You'd better talk about the paper mill. Did you know that something happened in Chang'an yesterday? It's because someone fiddled with a lot of white paper with the words White Deer College written on it and spread it on the market. Now that the emperor knows about it, he's furious." The old village chief heard this. His expression suddenly changed. Oh no, it's bad. This brat got into trouble again. Chapter 758. Just as Zhang Feng was about to enter the workshop that was under construction, he was stopped by an abrupt voice. "Oh. Isn't this Ardeen? Where are you going?" When the voice rang out, the corner of Zhang Feng's mouth could not help but twitch. He didn't see the person, but he could tell from the voice that this was old Yu, whom he had screwed over previously. Ha ha ha, Zhang Feng laughed dryly and turned around to look at Yuchi Gong and Qing Yaojin. Qin Xiong was standing at the side with his arms crossed. He feigned surprise and asked, "Oh, old brother Gong, you're in such a good mood. When did you come up the mountain? How come I didn't know?" "When?" "Just when you were running away," Yuchi Gong said with a fake smile. As he spoke, he clenched his fists so tightly that they looked like fried beans. Zhang Feng's lips twitched. This guy still hates me for the Korean ginseng incident. But what does this matter have to do with you? Why are you here? Zhang Feng rolled his eyes. He could only hang his head and walk over to the three of them, cupping his hands in greeting. Zhang Feng greets my three brothers. "Oh right, old Qin, what are you guys doing up the mountain?" As he spoke, Zhang Feng looked at Qing Yaojin and asked, "Are you guys also here for paper blank? You know about it?" The three of them stared at Zhang Feng speechlessly. Qing Yaojin slapped Zhang Feng and said, "What kind of rotten idea is this? You don't know, but when you handed out paper blank at the city gate yesterday, Ouyang Sun was so angry that he rushed into the palace to complain. If Lord Zhangsun and His Majesty hadn't stopped him, you would have suffered a lot this time." As Qing Yaojin spoke, he couldn't help but laugh. He wanted to pat Zhang Feng's head, but he found that this kid had nimbly dodged. Helplessly, he said, "Let's go and see the four great clans. While we're at it, we can't avoid this mess. If you don't deal with this matter today, then your mountain will be in chaos tomorrow." This time, Zhang Feng was a little flustered. How is this related to Mr. Ouyang? Hey! Didn't you calculate that Mr. Ouyang would return to Chang'an yesterday, and then deliberately waited for him at the Chang'an gate? Qing Yaojin glared at Zhang Feng and asked. Zhang Feng was a little flustered. No, I didn't. I didn't know anything about it. Chen Tinu, your son, and Li Gan came up with the lousy idea. I only asked them to send free paper to Chang'an City to advertise. Why did we bump into this? These few prodigal playthings. This time, they had stirred up a disaster. Zhang Feng did think of attracting these people to go up the mountain, but he didn't expect it to be done in such a way. If he had known, he wouldn't have let these people do such a stupid thing even if he was beaten to death. The ancients treasured paper as much as their wives and children. Especially for literati, paper was simply a treasure. Although he wasn't in Chang'an, it didn't mean that Zhang Feng didn't think of it. A group of sloppy people holding thin paper and rubbing it on their faces, and then letting the great Confucian see it. What was this? This was a slap in the face of the great Confucian. What the f*ck? Not to mention others, even if he saw it, he would be furious. These prodigals, damn it, what the hell are they doing, old Chen, have your son and the others come back? Qing Yao Jin, Yu Qigong, and Qin Xiong looked at each other and asked, are you sure you didn't plan this in advance? Zhang Feng was anxious. If I had planned this in advance, do you think I would have run away now? I wanted to lure the 4 great clans up the mountain because of their enthusiasm for paper, but I didn't want to slap them in the face. Do you think I would do such a stupid thing? This time, Qing Yao Jin also felt that this matter was serious. He looked at Yu Qigong and said, Old Yu, what do you think we should do now? Yu Qigong was stumped. If this kid was the one who did it, beating him up today would be a light punishment, but, if this really wasn't the one who did it, then it would be difficult. For a moment, the 4 of them looked at each other, and no one could think of a solution. Finally, Qin Xiong came up with an idea. Kid, this isn't the time to pursue this matter. Do you know what Mr. Ouyang said in the palace? What did he say? Zhang Feng asked hurriedly. He used the extravagance of the previous dynasty's Emperor Yang to describe what you did yesterday, and even scolded Lao Li. The emperor and the others also lost face. This is your fault, so you have to stand up and take responsibility for this matter. Yu Qigong was speechless and said again, do you know why the previous dynasty fell? It was because of the excesses of extravagance, and your actions yesterday have angered the great Confucians and the students of Chang'an. So, you have to stand up. You are the one who caused this, so you have to stand up. Zhang Feng was dumbfounded. Could it be that he had made a mistake? Why was it all his fault? What kind of logic was this? Chapter 759. In the end, Zhang Feng had to admit defeat. After all, he could imagine the consequences of this matter. Just as the 3 brothers had said, if he had not brought along Ouyang Sun yesterday, everything would have been fine. But he was unlucky. Now that he had bumped into them, there would be a lot to say. There was no other way. Zhang Feng could only accept his bad luck. He obediently followed Yu Qigong and the other 2 back to the entrance of the academy. When the 4 of them appeared, they saw Yu Shinan leading Ouyang Sun and the other 2 commenting on the academy's construction. The 4 of them even chatted with Wei Zheng and the others, bursting into laughter from time to time. However, when they saw Zhang Feng, their faces instantly turned cold. They stopped laughing and chatting. With their hands clasped behind their backs, they strolled into the living room of Zhang Feng's wooden hut and occupied the few chairs available, waiting for him. When Zhang Feng entered the hut, he realized that the few tea leaves he had in his collection had already been divided among them. Even the canister used to store the tea leaves was gone. The white wine mao was also nowhere to be found. It seemed that it had been discovered long ago. Zhang Feng took a deep breath. Damn it, they were king bandits. However, he really could not do anything about these old men. As soon as he entered, they pretended not to see him and continued to chat and drink tea, discussing the present and the past. Yu Qigong and Qing Yao Jin signaled to Zhang Feng with their eyes, then turned and slipped away. Zhang Feng had no choice but to brace himself and salute them. Junior Zhang Feng greets the teachers. I was busy just now and did not personally welcome all of you. Please forgive me. No one responded. Zhang Feng had to raise his voice again. Chu Suiliang rubbed his belly and said, I was wondering who it was. So it's our young friend Zhang Feng. What are you trying to do? Zhang Feng's face twitched. Wei Zheng and the others also looked at Zhang Feng with strange expressions, but did not say anything. On the contrary, Ouyang Sun slammed the table with a gloomy face and said, Zhang Feng, you brat, old man trusted you so much. Back then, because of your 3 poems, under Lao Li's coaxing and pestering, he recommended you to become a great scholar. This is really the shame of our lives. 3 poems? Fortunately, not all of her feelings had flowed out. Zhang Feng secretly heaved a sigh of relief. When Ouyang Sun saw Zhang Feng's calm expression, he couldn't help but become even angrier. We think so highly of you. When Chang'an University was first established, do you know how many literati were guiding you behind the scenes? But we've all helped you to take on the responsibility. But you, on the other hand, have created such an academy in this godforsaken place. Do you think you can do whatever you want just because you have some ability? The corner of Zhang Feng's mouth twitched. What was he going to do? Hold a criticism meeting? Ouyang Sun's scolding made Zhang Feng feel like he was being criticized. However, the more Ouyang Sun said, the more flustered Zhang Feng felt. He hurriedly said, Teacher, in order to run a school and let more poor people have books to study, I've taken out all my family's money. Now, look at the poor people who live in this kind of wooden house. What's more, I don't even have a home anymore. I just want to set up an academy so that I can better fulfill my responsibilities as a scholar. I would never dare to forget the kindness of my teachers, nor would I dare to forget the teachings of Confucius. That's why I set up an academy to protect the poor people in the world. I'm slow-witted. I don't know what I've done wrong to make my teachers so angry. Ouyang Sun stood up coldly and walked around Zhang Feng in circles with his hands behind his back. You're just talking nonsense. What did old man and the others teach you? Teachers? We don't dare. If this old man had a disciple like you, this old man would have dragged you out and beaten you to death long ago. How could I allow you to embarrass all of us here today? Otherwise, how could I allow all of us to bear the fallacy of being extravagant? Old man, you don't learn good things at such a young age. You have too much money to spend. Instead of learning good things at such a young age, you've learned to be so extravagant. What will happen if you continue like this? Today, you must give us an explanation. Otherwise, when we go down the mountain today, the four of us will jointly go to the Ministry of Works and Rights to abolish your title as a great Confucian scholar. Wasn't this too much? What was going on? Zhang Feng almost spat out a mouthful of blood. He was indeed a world-famous great Confucian scholar. His eloquence was awesome. Don't I want to lose face? Zhang Feng was baffled and immediately asked, Esteemed teacher, may I know what this student has done to make esteemed teacher and the others so angry? Humph. Brat, you really don't remember those shameful things you did? Before Ouyang Sun could say anything, Chu Suiliang was angry. Until now, you still don't know how to repent? I don't know what I did. Teacher, please tell me. Zhang Feng asked in a neither servile nor overbearing manner. Chu Suiliang stood up and stepped on the soft muddy ground. Zhang Feng felt that it was moving. Boy, the 300,000 pigs a few days ago were caused by you, right? This. Yes. Zhang Feng couldn't deny it and could only admit it. Anyway, whatever he said now would be wrong. He wanted to see what these great masters wanted to do. Seeing Zhang Feng admit it, Ouyang Sun couldn't help but snort coldly. Wei Zheng and the others pretended that they didn't see or hear anything. They gathered together and seemed to be arguing about something. Seeing that they didn't speak, Zhang Feng had to ask, Mr. Bosher, what do you think of the braised meat these days? Chapter 760. Yu Shinan, who was chatting happily with Fang Xianling, was suddenly pulled out by Zhang Feng. He was speechless. But he still nodded. The braised meat you ate was made by this kid. The food factory at the foot of the mountain is where he made it. Ouyang Sun and the others knew about the braised meat, but they didn't know that it was made by this kid. After all, when Yu Shinan gave them the braised meat, he didn't say where it came from. They thought that it was something newly invented by Yu Shinan. When Yu Shinan finished speaking, Zhang Feng cupped his fists gratefully and quickly struck while the iron was hot. Respected teachers, you know the current situation of the Tang dynasty. You also know that in order to control the locust plague, Lao Li bought a large number of pigs, chickens, and ducks to eliminate the locusts. But now you see, the locusts are gone, but the food is gone too. People don't have enough to eat, so how can we feed them? So this kid is bold. Instead of letting them starve to death, why not make them into delicacies on the table? It can also let the poor people eat more. What's wrong with this? Ouyang Sun's anger calmed down a little. Although what you're doing is not befitting of a great scholar and will be criticized by many scholars in the world, what you're doing is not wrong. Tomorrow, we will help you clarify this matter, but you must not do this in the future. When Zhang Feng heard this, he hurriedly bowed. This student understands. Let's drop this matter for now. But shouldn't you give me an explanation for what happened in Cheng and yesterday? Don't you know the price of the rice paper? Or do you think you're so great because you're rich? You even put the name of White Deer College on it. Do you think it's glorious? When Zhang Feng heard this, he said, "This student doesn't know what he did wrong. This student did this to promote the new paper I just invented. On the other hand, I want to promote White Deer College from a more diverse perspective. I want to let more students from poor families see hope. However, there is something that is hard for me to say." After Zhang Feng finished speaking, he hastily scanned the crowd and said, "Master, you should know that I have given my all for the sake of this academy. However, the construction of this academy is inseparable from money and food. With so many people and so many mouths to feed, I am helpless. So I came up with this idea, even though the publicity this time was a little too big, and it even offended you, Master. This was definitely not my intention. It was Li Gan and the others who acted on their own. I didn't know that you had returned to Cheng and yesterday, don't know? If you don't know, you can do this? Do you know that if we meet other people, boy, it won't be us who will go up the mountain today. It will be everyone in Cheng and city, including Hongwen Guan and Imperial College. You still don't know your mistake. You're still trying to force your words onto others? If it weren't for your instructions, how could they not know the severity of the matter?" The more Ouyang Sun spoke, the angrier he got. He wanted to raise his hand and punch someone. However, Chu Suiliang quickly stopped him. "Brat, you know the price of this piece of paper. You also know how important it is to the scholars of the world. What you did yesterday was indeed too much. This is equivalent to telling the people of the world that the things you think are incomparably precious are worthless to you. Do you know the consequences?" Zhang Feng was stunned when he heard that. "But this thing is worthless to begin with, isn't it?" Pfft. When the people who were drinking tea heard that, they couldn't help but spit out the tea in their mouths. They had seen people who bickered, but they had never seen someone who bickered like that. Worthless? So you're saying that us old folks and the world's literati can't even afford paper? This is such a precious thing, and you don't care about it at all? What does that mean? Emperor Yang of Sui ordered people to wrap silk around trees to pave the way. I'm sure he had the same idea as you, right? It's worthless too." Ouyang Sun was so angry that he was shaking all over. Fine, fine, fine. It's worthless. That's right. You're right. You have a big family now, and you have properties all over the world. Even if you don't have money, you can sell that Baijiu recipe and become rich again. Old man is poor. Of course, he can't compare to you. His sarcasm was a little too much. It was also very obvious. Anyone who knew these people knew that they were the richest people in the world. Not to mention Ouyang Sun, even Yu Shinan, whom Zhang Feng knew before, was a first-class family in the Han dynasty. Who in Jiangnan didn't know the Yu family? Almost half of Jiangnan had the surname Yu, right? How dare you call yourselves poor? If you're poor, you can sell a piece of calligraphy for tens of thousands of gold. You call that poor? When Zhang Sun Wuji and the others saw that Ouyang Sun and the others were really angry, they couldn't sit still anymore and hurriedly stood up. Zhang Sun Wuji coughed and said, "Fengzi, stop messing around. Apologize to Mr. Xian Ben and the others first." Zhang Sun Wuji was indeed the #1 peacemaker in the Tang dynasty. He basically didn't participate in any arguments, but when it came to smoothing things over, he would be the first to stand up. When Zhang Feng saw Zhang Sun stand up, he suddenly realized what was going on. What the hell am I doing? I'm courting death. If he angered these old fellows, he would be dead for sure. Chapter 761. It was true that harmony was the most precious thing. Why should he argue with a group of old guys here? What's the point? If he annoyed them, how could he teach in the academy? Zhang Feng immediately cupped his hands and bowed towards Ouyang Sun and the others. If this little one has offended you in any way, I implore the 4 esteemed teachers to not blame me. If esteemed teachers feel that this piece of paper is good, then it is this little one's fortune. How about this? When all of you descend the mountain, this little one will personally take 20 jin of paper and personally deliver it to your residences as an apology. Ouyang Sun was stunned. Chu Suiliang, who was about to sit down, almost squatted down and crushed the stool. In an instant, the small wooden house became terrifyingly quiet. Everyone stared at Zhang Feng in shock. 20 kilograms? Damn it. This kind of paper, it was dozens of times better than the rice paper. Not to mention Ouyang Sun, even Zhang Sun Wuji and the others wanted to beat him up at this time. He deserved a beating. This was simply outrageous. Firstly, they would be labeled as extravagant in the imperial court. Second, they were simply too disrespectful to their elders. What a prodigal. This kind of white paper was not only more expensive than the rice paper, but it was also worth the same price as the rice paper. How could he give 20 kilograms of paper, which was worth 1,000 strings of coins per kilogram? We're brothers, so why didn't you come to inform me at the very first moment? Even if it was just to inform me, it would have been fine. But what happened? You didn't know anything. Then, he was inexplicably scolded for a long time. At the thought of the smooth and white paper, everyone felt as if there were 10,000 horses galloping in their hearts. How could this kind of paper be measured by kilograms? What was this? This was a complete humiliation. And he humiliated the 4 Confucian scholars in public in front of so many people. At this time, Zhang Feng was even more surprised when he saw that everyone was silent. Could it be that it was too little? Thinking of this, Zhang Feng suddenly patted the back of his head. Yes. As the 4 Confucian scholars, 20 kilograms was indeed too little. Zhang Feng couldn't help blushing. It seemed that his vision was still too narrow. After measuring the output, Zhang Feng said carefully, "How about 50? No. 100 kilograms, what do you think about 100 kilograms? When Zhang Feng said 50 kilograms, he actually felt a little guilty. After all, the production cost of a caddy of paper was less than 10 copper coins, and that was after including the wages of the workers. Although paper wasn't worth much now, the papermaking workshop had just started. 400 pounds of paper was already a day's worth of output. Furthermore, Zhang Feng didn't know if he could produce 400 caddies in the second production. If he could only produce 300 caddies, it would be troublesome. The most important thing was, right now, he had yet to write his textbooks and other things. Seeing that there was only a month or so left before the academy officially opened, he was also anxious. If it wasn't for the fact that he had to pull in a few heavyweights for the academy to hold the fort, and that he could free himself to be a teacher, Zhang Feng would really be reluctant to do so. After all, although this thing was nothing to him, it was really a rare thing in the outside world. Ouyang Sun and the others were strangely silent at this time. They wanted to say something, but in the end, they couldn't say anything. They knew the purpose of coming here today, and obviously they already knew why Zhang Feng did this. However, to give away 100 caddies of such good paper in one go, Ouyang Sun still didn't know what to say. At this time, Chu Suiliang's hands were constantly intertwining, and his brain was also rapidly calculating. 100 caddies of white paper. What kind of concept was this? Even if the production cost of a caddy of paper was 1,000 copper coins, how much would 100 caddies cost? Suddenly, he felt that his brain wasn't enough. However, if he were to use the abacus now, wouldn't it be too much? When Zhang Feng saw this, he was even more anxious. Teacher, old son, say something. He was already so generous, were they still not satisfied? After a long time. After a long time. After Ouyang Sun and the others looked at each other, they finally all stared at Zhang Feng. Ouyang Sun surprisingly calmed down and asked, Boy, are you humiliating old man and the others? Zhang Feng was a little confused. But in an instant, his face changed greatly. It was said that the people of the Tang dynasty were straightforward. My F** king honest. Isn't it too unkind? Do you think 100 caddies of paper is not enough? Even if you are a great scholar, even if you are the Ouyang family, the Yu family, the emperor, the richest person in the dynasty, you may not be so arrogant to give away so much paper at one time, right? People's hearts are not enough. Seeing this, Zhang Feng could only grit his teeth, stomp his feet, and stretched out 2 fingers with difficulty. 200 caddies. 200 caddies shouldn't be considered a humiliation, right? I can't give more. I can only produce less than 500 caddies a day. If you can wait for more than a month, let alone 200 caddies, even if it's 2,000 caddies, as long as you can hold it, I can give it to you. Pa. When the words 200 caddies came out of Zhang Feng's mouth, in an instant, the living room was dead silent again. There was only the sound of someone crushing a cup. Chapter 762. Ouyang Sun only felt uncomfortable in his heart. It was as if Zhang Feng was sitting on a mountain of paper, waving at him. Did you see that? What you regard as a treasure, as your life, is just paper to wipe your ass. When I say I'll give it away, I'll give it by caddies. And it's 200 caddies. Ouyang Sun had the urge to beat Zhang Feng to death. Although the purpose of today's visit was to confirm whether this thing was made by Zhang Feng. It was indeed for paper, but it was 200 caddies. It made Ouyang Sun feel like he was looking at a nouveau riche. Not only him, but everyone present could not stand Zhang Feng's clamor. Whether it was Ouyang Sun, Chu Suiliang, or even Yu Shinan who was prepared for this, they were trembling with anger, glaring at Wei Zheng and the others. It was clear that he was saying, look at this, this is your brother? Are all the people in the imperial court so extravagant? At this time, Wei Zheng and the others could not sit still. A few hundred caddies. 100 caddies. 4 people would be 400 caddies. This was already an astronomical figure. And it seemed that this guy had not touched the bottom line yet. But they also knew that they could not continue. If this continued, not to mention Yu Shinan and the others, even they would go crazy. Cough, cough. Wei Zheng coughed. Seeing that no one was paying attention, he could only stroke his beard and say, Feng Zi, you're simply a prodigal thing. What are you doing? You're insulting Mr. Bo Shi and the others. Why aren't you apologizing to Mr. Bo Shi and the others? 200 caddies of white paper. Do you know that even the emperor only gets 1 caddy of rice paper a month? Even Mr. Bo Shi and the others can only use 1 caddy of rice paper for half a year unless it's necessary. It's not that they are unwilling, it's that they can't buy it. But you, the moment you open your mouth, you ask for 200 caddies. You are simply, Zhang Feng scratched his head. Looking at Wei Zheng and the others' slightly angry expressions, he immediately said, Old Wei, 200 jin per person is already my limit, and this is the total number of papers that will be produced tomorrow and the day after. I don't know if there will be any wear and tear when the time comes. If there is wear and tear, it will take another 4 days. After all, there are still impurities on the white paper, and it was only improved today. But even if it's a full production, at most, I can only produce 1,000 caddies per day. Don't worry, if any of you feel that it's too little, I'll take care of all the paper you use in the future. This is the limit of what I can bear right now. After all, you all know that this kid's academy needs paper everywhere. Moreover, this kid also needs to eat. On the one hand, it's for the convenience of the academy. Of course, it would be best if I could earn some money while helping all of you. After all, as you can see, I have a big family to feed now. Hearing this, in an instant, the living room once again fell into a dead silence. A pin drop could be heard. 1,000 caddies a day? This kind of paper, Ouyang Sun, who felt humiliated just now, felt even more suffocated at this time. If the stimulation just now was like carrying 100 caddies on his back, then now, it was like carrying a mountain on his back, making him breathless. Wei Zheng couldn't sit still anymore. Seeing Ouyang Sun and the others' faces trembling, he hurriedly asked, Fengzi, how much do you think the daily production can be? 1,000 caddies? But this is under the condition of full production. Now, at least in a month, on average, it can only reach 500 caddies a day. Zhang Feng said very sincerely. Seeing that Ouyang Sun and the others' faces still didn't improve, he said again, to reach 1,000 caddies a day, the materials must be prepared a day in advance, and the people in the paper mill must be familiar with the manufacturing process. It will take more than a month to reach 1,000 caddies a day. After thinking for a while, Zhang Feng clasped his hands and said, Dear teachers, the technology and manpower for paper making are ready-made, so it doesn't cost much. In the future, when everyone's technology becomes more and more mature, that is, when we can reach 1,000 caddies a day, I intend to set the price of each piece of paper at 1 copper coin per caddy. Of course, this is just my guess, but it's a little difficult now. I still need to work harder to let the students of the academy fill their stomachs and still have some surplus. 1 copper coin per piece of paper? At this time, everyone in the room felt their blood pressure soar. What did this mean? If the production cost of white paper was not more expensive than rice paper, even if it was only the cost of rice paper, they would definitely make a lot of money. At the very least, in their hearts, no matter how cheap this thing was, it would at least be 100 copper coins per caddy. But they never thought that this bastard would set the price of paper at 1 copper coin per caddy. This meant that paper would no longer be a luxury item in the future. Even ordinary people could use it. Every aristocratic family would flaunt their wealth by collecting books. However, if Zhang Feng were to do so, wouldn't these methods of flaunting their wealth become the laughingstock of the world? What a good piece of white paper. Moreover, the production was so high, and the price in the future would be cheaper than the cheapest hard yellow paper in the market. What did this mean? The price of yellow paper now was 20 copper coins, but, in this era where paper and silk were expensive, what did this mean? Zhang Sun Wuji and Yu Shinan asked almost at the same time, Feng Zi, your paper, does it have a shortcut? Tell us. Chapter 763. Yu Shinan hurriedly asked, Little friend Zhang Feng, tell me, is there something special about your paper-making technique? Hearing this, everyone could not help but perk up their ears and hold their breaths. Zhang Feng smiled. The most difficult part of paper making was to make the birch bark, grass ash, bamboo, and the like into pulp. This required a lot of bamboo, charcoal, and manpower. The process was also complicated. But, Lao Tzu had been reprimanded by all of you for so long, why should Lao Tzu tell you? I, Zhang Feng, don't need to eat. Lao Tzu, the thousands of people in White Deer College, don't need to eat. If he told you this thing so easily and got tricked by those aristocratic families, wouldn't Lao Tzu have nothing to eat? It would be difficult for him to even make a profit in the paper-making market. He was not that stupid. After all, he had to think about the future of the college. What if, 3 years later, there was really a genius who could not study and wanted to go into business? Wouldn't that be equivalent to giving Zhang Feng a free long-term labor? But Zhang Feng also knew that he had to tell them now. He was still hoping that he could use this to recruit Ouyang Sun and the others. Sigh. Zhang Feng sighed. Only then did he use his trump card. While Zhang Feng sighed, Yu Qigong, who was outside the door, instantly felt goosebumps all over his body. This grandson, he was going to trick people again. Yu Qigong could not help but look forward to it. Blackie, let's make a bet. I guess these 4 masters will definitely be tricked by this kid today. Do you believe me? Qing Yao Jin rolled his eyes and did not say anything. He only raised 3 fingers. I bet 3,000 strings of strings. At this moment, in the living room, Zhang Feng slowly said, I still have a good brother who is not here today. But you should have heard of Lao Li. The entire college was set up by Lao Li and me. Although this paper mill is my business, Lao Li, Old Wei, and the others have all helped me a lot. Wei Zheng and the others blushed. They were a little embarrassed. Seeing this, Zhang Feng said, of course. Although you are busy, if it weren't for your son, I wouldn't even dare to set up Chang and University, not to mention the academy. So I plan to divide this paper mill into 6 parts, one for each of us. This can also give Li Gan and the others a status. Otherwise, I know that if not for you secretly telling them to do their best, White Deer College today. Hearing this, they could not help but be shocked. This kind of paper, no matter how expensive it was, but since this kid dared to sell it for 1 copper coin per sheet, it was obvious that the cost of the paper must be ridiculously low. However, even if it was sold for 1 copper coin per kilogram, they could imagine what kind of reaction it would cause once it was put into the market. Perhaps, when the time came, the profits of this thing would not be lower than fine salt. This was something that only those who knew that table salt was created by Zhang Feng would know. At this moment, Zhang Feng pretended to be reluctant and said, of course, if you want to know, I can tell you the process of making paper now. Enough. Shut up. Du Ruhui hurriedly shouted. He and Yu Shinan hurriedly shouted for him to stop. Idiot. This was the height of idiocy. How could such an important thing be announced in front of so many people? Wasn't he afraid that others would hear? Yu Shinan saw that it was about time and sighed. You were the one who created this thing, we won't covet it. We just want to ascertain your character and whether you are really so extravagant. That's enough. We were just casually asking and you, kid, spoke without thinking. You even revealed your family background and gave away a few 100 kilograms of paper. It's clear that you are not smart enough. This kind of thing is something that you, Zhang Feng, can settle down in life and bring blessings to your descendants. How can you show it to others so easily? It's clear that although you have a lot of ideas, if you don't have anyone to guide you, you will suffer a great loss sooner or later. Hearing this, Zhang Feng rolled his eyes. Master's words have enlightened this student. It can be seen that this little one is really. I hope that Master can see this little one's sincerity and stay. Otherwise, this little one doesn't know when this little one will do something stupid. With such a good downhill path, Zhang Feng would be a fool if he did not take it. A big fool. As expected, Yu Shinan heard this and sighed with a smile. Not bad, you are teachable. But do you know how much it costs to hire a great scholar to teach you? Even if it's 1,000 taels of gold, I can get it. Ha ha ha. Yu Shinan laughed and scolded, what if the old man wants the stars in the sky? If teacher really wants it, 10 years, no. Within 5 years, I will definitely make something that can fly in the sky and give you one. Wasn't it just a meteorite? Although the chances of going to the moon were slim, he did not believe that the dam system would not activate in 5 years. Even if it did not activate, what did it matter? Lao Tzu could make it himself. If it did not work, he could still act. It was still possible to find a meteorite. When the time came, he could make a hot air balloon. Wouldn't he have everything? Chapter 764. Yu Shinan was a little annoyed. The old man gave you a way out, and you didn't even know how to take advantage of it. Instead, you took advantage of it? All right. The old man will stay on this deserted mountain and see if you can pluck the stars for the old man in 5 years. If you can't, the old man will definitely punish you for deceiving the world. This student understands. Of course, I won't let you get away with it for nothing. When will you be able to make that wine? Yu Shinan, Ouyang Sun, and the others looked at each other and smiled. Zhang Feng was counting on his fingers, but he didn't notice. He said, logically speaking, there are still 10 days, but I still have some wine next to my tavern. What? You still have wine? Yu Shinan was speechless. Last time when the old man came up the mountain, didn't you say that there was none left? Ahem. Yu Qigong had come in at some point. He coughed and said, last time when Lao Li came, this bastard also said that there was none left. In the end, he still made a jar under the bed. It seems that there is still a lot left. Zhang Feng was anxious. He swore, in all honesty, I really can't do it this time. You all know about the brewery next to this tavern. Although it brews beer, when this kid went up the mountain, he saw that there was not enough food to finish, so he went over and brewed a batch. He got someone to watch over it. Hearing this, everyone snorted a few times. Obviously, they didn't believe it. Enough, are you all drunkards? Yu Shinan laughed and interrupted everyone. He said, since you call us your teacher, we'll hand it over. However, we can't give you anything less than what we've promised. You must be served with wine and meat every day. If we miss a meal, we'll leave the mountain. This is a matter of principle. There is no room for discussion. As for the money, you can just convert it into good wine. We don't care about that little bit of money. All right. Zhang Feng was overjoyed. Yu Shinan looked at Ouyang Sun and the others and said, the three of you, what do you think? There's nothing wrong with this kid's character, right? Do you want to stay? While speaking, Yu Shinan patted his forehead and said, that's right, kid, I remember now. If you come up with anything good in the future, hand it over. If I find out that you're hiding something, the old man won't let you off. Zhang Feng felt like he was being squeezed. However, he still nodded and admitted defeat. Seeing this, Yu Shinan and the others nodded in satisfaction. Let me introduce you. As he spoke, Yu Shinan pointed at Ouyang Sun and said, this old fellow's letter book. Zhang Feng's heart trembled. Student Zhang Feng greets Mr. Shinmoto. Forget it, forget it. Remember to bring me good wine and good dishes, as well as white paper every day. This student understands. This fatty's courtesy name is Dengshan. Zhang Feng was shocked when he heard this, oh my god. Didn't history say that Chu Suiliang was thin? He was so fat that he looked like a ball. However, he didn't dare to say anything and hurriedly saluted. This is Si Tong. Student greets Mr. Si Tong. Okay. Don't make empty promises. As for coming to the academy, we still need to observe your character. You should be teaching and educating people, but you actually come to do this kind of unorthodox thing. While speaking, Si Tong added again, however, for the sake of your 200 pounds of paper, if you do this every month, the old man will come down. Zhang Feng's mouth twitched. However, in an instant, his mouth was grinning from ear to ear. This student thanks all of you, teachers. Are you sure you want to thank us? Ouyang Sun and Chu Suiliang looked at Zhang Feng with a smile. In an instant, Zhang Feng felt that he had been set up. But now, Zhang Feng knew that there was a trap, but he had to jump into it. He cupped his fists and said, what are you talking about, teacher? Of course, what's mine is yours. Just take as much as you need. Okay. The old man is happy to see your white paper. How about 1,000 pounds of white paper and a cart of white wine every month for each person? Sir, do you want to eat paper? 1,000 pounds? Can you not be so snobbish? Do you really think this is a charity hall? As long as you like it, even if you need to wipe your ass with paper, I'm willing to give it to you. Chu Suiliang was stunned by his words. However, he shook his head and said, you see, you're cornered now. Forget it. Since you've done so much for the sake of the students in the world, the old man won't make things difficult for you. What do the three of you think? While speaking, Chu Suiliang and the others laughed heartily like roosters that had won a fight. Yu Shinan laughed and said, it seems that Brother Fong and the others have something to say to this kid. Let's go, I'll bring the three of you around Shao Mountain. Let's go to Elder Sun's place. The others asked in surprise, you're talking about medical god Elder Sun? Is he really at White Deer College? Yu Shinan nodded. I don't know what kind of magic this kid has to make elder son come to the mountain. Didn't you guys want a drink? He should have some left over. Kid, wait a moment and get someone to send some food over. You don't have any manners at all. How can you sit on a cold bench for more than 2 hours when you have guests? Zhang Feng felt so wrong that he was about to cry. Sir. Dear second master. The moment the few of you came, you gave me a good scolding. You actually gave me some time. Chapter 765. Under Zhang Feng's aggrieved gaze, Yu Shinan and the other 3 laughed and left the cabin. They paced with their hands behind their backs as if they were inspecting their own property. Of course, in the end, for the sake of paper, wine, or braised meat, they even forgot that Zhang Feng had impersonated their student. Perhaps they also tacitly approved of Zhang Feng. After all, they had recommended Zhang Feng, and Zhang Feng could be considered their student. Otherwise, if anyone dared to call them that, they would have to argue with him from beginning to end and then send him to the authorities to be dealt with according to law. Obviously. They tacitly approved of this matter. As for Zhang Feng, when he was caught by Yu Qigong, he had already thought of this point. As long as he agreed, everything would be much easier. However, Zhang Feng was also a little annoyed. This old man really had some tricks up his sleeve. At first, he was confused. This matter, according to the situation in the Tang dynasty, would indeed arouse public anger. However, in the end, he did not expect that this matter would end like this. However, Zhang Feng also knew that these 4 masters would definitely not take advantage of him without doing anything. Now that they had gone out, they should be thinking of a way. Thinking of this, Zhang Feng felt a little grateful. If it were not for these people, he would really have to think about how to face the public anger of the world's literati and the revenge of those big families. After all, it was the appearance of his paper that made what they were proud of become worthless. Fengzi, since their matter has been settled, let's talk about our matter now. Yu Qigong and the other 3 sat in the seats of Yu Shinan and the other 3 just now. They also pulled Zhang Feng up from the chair. Zhang Feng instantly woke up. Old Yu, are we okay? Okay? You made me suffer a great loss. Yu Qigong glared fiercely at Qing Yaojin, who was drinking tea with a smile. This made Zhang Feng even more baffled. Cough, cough. Feng Zi, let's get down to business. Yu Qigong coughed and said, we saw your paper too. Kid, you have such a good thing, but you don't want to take it out? You caused us to be scolded by Mr. Xinbin yesterday. You're too mean. Tell me, how are you going to compensate us? I don't have time, do I? Didn't I send Li Gan and the others to deliver a letter to you yesterday? Zhang Feng suddenly thought of something and asked, oh right, are Li Gan and the other little bastards back yet? Did I tell you when I bought it for you yesterday? The few of them were stunned upon hearing this. You look at me, and I look at you. Seeing this, Zhang Feng's vision darkened. Bastard. What a beast. He was simply a beast. I asked you guys to go out and do something. What the F***ck are you guys doing? If they had followed his instructions yesterday, would things have turned out this way? According to yesterday's arrangement, after they distributed the flyers, the first thing they would do was to bring the paper to show off. But in the end? Even now, Old Li and the others didn't know about it. Could it be that they did not help him just now? So that's what happened. Damn it. Look at how Lao Tzu is going to deal with you guys now that you're back. If he doesn't want you to dig dung, he'll make you move bricks at the kiln. Sigh. I've met the wrong people. I was just wondering if I should give them 10% of the paper mill. Now, it seems like I should go to hell. Cough, cough. The few of them coughed when they heard this. Feng Zi, you're not being nice. We all heard it. Words that have been spoken are like spilled water. How can you take them back? No, this is not negotiable. What a joke. They had earned a lot of money from that salt. Now that they had finally seen something good, how could they just watch it slip away? Feng Zi, this matter has alarmed His Majesty. Do you know that after Mr. Xian Ben caused a ruckus in the imperial study yesterday, Lord Zhangsun came to us and asked us to deal with this matter properly. His Majesty is very angry. Do as you see fit. Zhang Feng was shocked when he heard that. He did not know that the emperor would be alarmed. However, he had seen it on TV. With the status of these great scholars, even the emperor had to be polite to them. They really dared to angrily rebuke the emperor. Zhang Feng could not help but feel a little flustered. Then what do you think we should do? Since all of you are here today, I'm sure you've already thought of a way, right? Cough, cough. Wei Zheng coughed and was a little embarrassed to say it. He nudged Zhang Sun Wuji, who was sitting next to him with his elbow. Zhang Feng had always been looking down. When he saw Wei Zheng nudge him, he shook his head speechlessly. He raised a peace sign and said slowly, each of us will give you 200 caddies of white paper. We'll help you settle it. Also, Li Gan and the others, what? 200 caddies per person? You really think highly of me, Zhang Feng. 200 jin per person. In an instant, Zhang Feng thought about it and realized that in this workshop, not only did they not use it for themselves, but they had also given it all away in a month. How could he make any money? Zhang Feng immediately got up and ran out. No way. Get lost, I won't see you out. Chapter 766. Zhang Feng was completely enraged. So, he had been set up by Yu Shinan and the others. Zhang Feng could still hold it in. After all, he could still afford to hire a big shot to watch over the place and teach for free. But how could Zhang Feng do something like looting a burning house? 200 caddies per person. Although the latter part was not mentioned, he knew. It would definitely be 200 caddies a month. Plus, it would be from their own share. That is to say, although Zhang Feng monopolized 50% of the profits, everything, including the expenses on the mountain and the monthly allowance for Yu Shinan and the others, he would not be left with a single cent. What the hell was this? Seeing this, the others. They were also anxious. Yu Qigong flashed and hurriedly picked up Zhang Feng, who had just walked out of the room. Feng Zi, let's talk things over. We're brothers, aren't we? Listen to me about the 200 caddies of paper. Zhang Feng was pressed down on the chair. Zhang Feng rolled his eyes and said, I'm not listening. Do you think I'm running a bank? I have thousands of people on this mountain, and they all need to be fed. If you do this, won't I become free labor? I won't do it. You can't say that. Look, aren't we also trying to shut the mouths of those people in the imperial court? And look at what happened yesterday. It has already made many people in the imperial court and those scholars in Chang'an unhappy. They all need to be bribed. 50 caddies. Zhang Feng stretched out his hand. Just 50 caddies, no more. How could he not know what these people were thinking? 50 caddies. This was all for the sake of his brothers. If it were anyone else, Zhang Feng would have chopped them up with a big knife. Wasn't this obviously a scam? 200 caddies. This was like slaughtering a pig. Feng Zi, look at the relationship between us. You have the nerve to take out 50 caddies? Are you? Yu Qigong was about to bargain. He was interrupted by Zhang Feng. You don't write or draw every day, so what do you need paper for? Don't think I don't know that you want to sell it. Zhang Feng was anxious. Yu Qigong wasn't angry. Instead, while Zhang Feng wasn't paying attention, he patted Zhang Feng's shoulder. Zhang Feng almost fainted from the slap. Fengzi, look. These old fogies have that thing in your paper mill, but this old man doesn't have it. Also, you cheated me of so much money last time. Now, I don't even dare to go home. Today, I don't have any other choice. If you don't give me some benefits, I won't be able to explain it to my family. Zhang Feng was anxious. Why was he being blamed for this? What happened last time was your fault, alright? It was your fault for kicking you out. You didn't have the ability to keep an eye on your wife. How could you blame me? Don't you have any shame? However, Zhang Feng thought about it and said, fine, since that's the case, old you, on account of Lao Li, I'll give you 50 kilograms of paper. I want to have it every month. You have to give me some money for alcohol, right? My wife is fierce. Last time, you. Fine, fine, fine. 50 kilograms. 50 kilograms a month. That should be fine, right? Zhang Feng was annoyed. More importantly, he was being strangled. No one dared to be careless. Who would be able to withstand a slap if they were caught off guard? Seeing Zhang Feng compromise, Yuqi Gong happily let go of Zhang Feng. Upon seeing this, Qin Xiong wanted it, but he couldn't bring himself to do it. In the end, it was Yuqi Gong who said, Ayaya, look at what kind of brother I am. I've already said that brothers have to go through thick and thin together. I'm good, but old way. If brother Zhang Feng looks down on you, how about I give you a little every month? Qin Xiong, Zhang Feng, Wei Zheng and the others, shameless. Too shameless. Too inhumane. Seeing that Zhang Feng didn't say anything, Yuqi Gong continued to hold Zhang Feng's hand and rubbed it in his palm. The calluses on his hand almost pulled the skin off the back of Zhang Feng's hand. Zhang Feng's entire body was trembling. Sigh. Look at brother Zhang Feng's soft skin and tender flesh. He's no rougher than anyone else. As he spoke, Yuqi Gong slapped his head and said, oh right, I remember now. I have a distant cousin who hasn't gotten married yet. I heard that you haven't gotten married recently, right? Zhang Feng's expression changed when he heard that. He looked at Yuqi Gong's round, plate-like face in horror, then looked at the fleas scurrying about on his curly beard. His mentality completely exploded. He asked in a trembling voice, I'm already engaged. I love my fiancé very much. Don't you dare have any designs on me. You haven't gotten married yet, have you? Besides, who doesn't know that you've gotten the courtesan of Yen Lai restaurant? Why are you still pretending? I'll let my distant cousin come to Chang'an tomorrow. Stop. Stop, stop, stop. Look at my memory. How could I forget about old Qin? Don't worry, I'll send 100 caddies to your residence tomorrow. Now, you should be able to let me go, right? After saying that, Zhang Feng looked at Yuqi Gong angrily. Yuqi Gong laughed out loud. He then let go of Zhang Feng. The moment he let go of Zhang Feng fled. Seeing that, Yuqi Gong shouted behind him, my distant cousin will come to Chang'an in a few days. I'll let her come directly to the academy then. Chapter 767. Zhang Feng panicked. He hurriedly ran away. Did they really think that this place was a charity? When Zhang Feng left, Zhang Sun and the others were stunned. They looked at each other. So, did we ask for too much? Yuqi Gong asked with some embarrassment. Wei Zheng sighed speechlessly. You! Hurry up and chase after him. What are you waiting for? They finally reacted and hurriedly chased after him. Today, they wanted to get some benefits from Zhang Feng. This guy was usually so stingy. Now that he was being generous, how could they not want to get more? But now, it seemed that they couldn't even complete the task given by the emperor, let alone them. After Zhang Feng left the small wooden house, he ran madly towards a place with a lot of people. Where were the most people now? The kitchen near the wooden house had the most people. And they were all from Tong Huifang. Zhang Feng's frantic running made the women and children of Tong Huifang pale with fright. Feng Zi, what are you doing? Hurry, help me block them. Everyone was stunned. They stared blankly as Zhang Feng ran through the kitchen and out the back door of the firewood room. He ran all the way to the valley on the right. They couldn't help but feel confused. What was going on? But when they turned around and saw Yuchi Gong and the others chasing after him, they instantly understood. This group of living Yama must have bullied Feng Zi again. Motherf *Ker, how much did they bully Feng Zi? The people of Tong Huifang couldn't help but feel angry. Old and young men. Grab your weapons and block them for me. Go find the old village chief. Today, we will send these people to the authorities. Roar. In an instant. The people of Tong Huifang in the kitchen were envious. Everyone could tell that something was wrong from the way this group of people had acted the moment they came up the mountain. In the end, Feng Zi had slipped away and was dragged back by the big black man. These people thought that Feng Zi was easy to bully, but did they really think that everyone in Tonghui Lane was easy to bully? In an instant, everyone in Tonghui Lane, starting from the kitchen, saw this scene, and then looked at Zhang Feng who was running madly, and Yuchi Gong and the others who were hot on his heels. Their eyes turned red. They also raised their weapons and blocked the path of Yuchi Gong and the others. As for the veterans of the reclining workshop, they were very comfortable at the moment. Who treated them as humans in the reclining lane? Not to mention having a full meal, as long as he didn't go hungry, he would be thankful. Ordinary people would not dare to take in old, weak and disabled soldiers like them. As a result, Enlufang was jokingly called a place to wait for death by the people of Chang'an. However, Zhang Feng was very generous. Not only did he give them a profitable business, but he also gave them a lot of money. During this food shortage, everyone was about to starve to death. But, in the end, it was Feng Zi who did not reject anyone and recruited them. At this time, not only did they not have to do manual labor, but they also spent the whole day weaving frames, doing carpentry, and other miscellaneous tasks. Not only did they have food and shelter, but they also earned money. Every day after work, they could even go to the market at the foot of the mountain to drink a pot of wine. This was better than the life of a deity. However, as veterans, although they could not observe the situation, as long as they were not stupid, they knew that the situation on the mountain today was looking for trouble with Feng Zi. How could they sit still? They all picked up their weapons and rushed up. Gan Ziyuan was sitting in a red brick house at the construction site, happily brewing a pot of tea and discussing with a few of his foremen about the division of labor to paint the walls. However, there was a commotion outside the door and they could not help but interrupt them. The few of them were shocked and thought that something big had happened. They hurriedly went out to take a look and were instantly dumbfounded. They saw that the thousands of people on the construction site, whether it was their subordinates, the laborers, or the students, at this time, as if half of them had gone crazy. They were yelling and holding the tools used for work and rushed to the mountain gate. What's going on? Gan Ziyuan was dumbfounded. He hurriedly grabbed a red-eyed skinny monkey and asked. The skinny monkey struggled for a while and turned his head to throw the brick in his hand at the face of the person behind him. However, after seeing Gan Ziyuan's face, he was shocked and stopped the brick that was about to fall on Gan Ziyuan's head. He asked, Boss Gan, why are you here? Lao Tzu asked you, are you crazy or hysterical? What are you doing? You don't know? The skinny monkey asked with his eyes wide open. Gan Ziyuan was impatient. I just learned that the group of people who cheated our dean is here again. And this time, it's even worse. They directly want to take away all the things of our dean, and now the dean has run away. What? Gan Ziyuan's head twitched. He asked, tell me in detail, what's going on? It's this. After the skinny monkey explained the matter in detail and hurriedly, Gan Ziyuan's face could not help but change greatly. Others might not know the identity of these people. But he knew. To be able to be with the crown prince and the others, how could their status be low? And those few lords, he also saw them this morning. Who were they? They were Motherf King dukes in the imperial court. If he were to be beaten up by these bumpkins, he would die. Gan Ziyuan could not help but run to the mountain gate with reddened eyes. Wrong, wrong, you've got it wrong. You can't beat them. Motherf King Lao Tzu back. Chapter 768. Ganjiyu went crazy. These people, why did you come up the mountain for no reason? The Duke's public house can't let you go, so you had to come up the mountain. What kind of joke are you playing with us? Motherf asterisk Ker, are you trying to kill us? If he had known, Lao Tzu wouldn't have come to Shao Mountain in the first place. F asterisk CK. F asterisk CK, F asterisk CK, F asterisk CK. Ganjiyu ran forward like a madman, and the people behind him were dumbfounded. They didn't pay attention to what he said and ran forward even more crazily, wanting to avenge the dean. The thinking of the ancients was that simple. If you give me enough to eat, I'll be the one who provides for my livelihood. Who dares to touch their livelihood? That's simply asking for their lives. Moreover, in this famine, it was worse than killing one's parents. At this moment, Yuchi Gong and the others were dumbfounded. Looking at the red eyes staring at them holding farm tools high in their hands, and even a child holding a pile of donkey dung, they completely lost their composure. What are you doing? Put down the things in your hands. If there's something, let's talk nicely, okay? Why do you have to use weapons? Hey, F asterisk CK, who is it? Who threw donkey dung at me? Before Yuchi Gong could finish, someone in the crowd threw a pile of donkey dung at his face. If he hadn't dodged quickly, his face would have been, kill. At this moment, the veterans of the reclining workshop came from afar. They were much simpler and more violent. How dare they mess with Zhang Feng? That was messing with their brother. What else could they do? First, they had to suppress them with their momentum. Then again. When Yuchi Gong and the others heard that, their expressions changed immediately. When they saw about 100 soldiers in an irregular formation in the distance, they couldn't help but feel a little dazed. Old Black, are these your people? Yuchi Gong asked anxiously. Qing Yaojin didn't know and was also shocked at this moment. They're not my people. How the F asterisk CK would I know where they came from? The reclining square. They are veterans of the reclining square. They almost starved to death during the famine, so Feng Zi took them in. Wei Zheng looked at the group of veterans with a serious expression and said, these people are afraid of starvation. They probably think that we are going to do something to Feng Zi, so, Zhang Sun Wuji was also anxious. Old Wei, just tell me what to do. Yuchi Gong and Qing Yaojin were so anxious that their eyes turned red. They were at the very front, and it looked like they wouldn't be able to hold on any longer. Most importantly, they didn't even have a weapon. Qin Xiong said, why don't we return to the room and make plans? Since they are soldiers, there should be people who recognize us. As long as they see us, as long as they are not idiots, they will retreat. What do you think? Hearing this, everyone's eyes lit up. He hurriedly ran back. On the other side, Li Qingxian and the others hummed a little tune as they sat on the 5 palanquins in a drunken stupor, slowly running up the mountain. When they entered the market at the foot of the mountain, Li Qingxian's guard, who had been guarding the place, hurriedly reported something that made Li Qingxian's soul leave his body. Young Master Li, just now, the 4 great families went up the mountain. Then, Eunuch Wei and the others also went up the mountain. After that, something seemed to have happened to the dean. The mountain was in chaos and everyone was attacking Eunuch Wei and the others. We didn't know what to do, so we could only wait for you here. When they heard this, their legs almost turned to jelly. Qing Chimo crawled out of the sedan chair in horror and looked up the mountain. Hearing the faintly discernible noise, he couldn't help but ask guiltily, Li Qingxian, we seem to have forgotten something important yesterday? Hearing this, Li Qingxian's expression changed drastically. He looked at Du Go and asked, what is it? It seems, Wei Shuyu glanced up the mountain, and cold sweat appeared on his forehead. It seems that we forgot to go home and tell our family about this. Buzz. In an instant, a thunderclap sounded in their heads. The hell? They are dead for sure. Let me ask you, did something happen at home yesterday? Li Qingxian hurriedly asked the guard. Hearing this, The guard looked at the sweat on Li Qingxian's forehead and their pale faces and said, "Something came. I heard that great scholar Ouyang caused a ruckus in the imperial study. It seems that something happened at the city gates." "The hell? They are dead for sure." Li Qingxian wanted to cry. Yesterday, he originally wanted to return to the palace. In the end, he learned that a group of girls from Goguryeo had come. Then, they went to Swallow Descent restaurant. Until now, they had completely forgotten about this important matter. This time, Li Qingxian instantly thought of everything. The more he thought, the uglier Li Qingxian's expression became. He hurriedly waved his hand, and without caring about cursing, he hurriedly boarded the sedan chair and rushed up the mountain. "Go. Quickly go up the mountain. If we are late, we will definitely die," Li Qingxian exclaimed. Instantly, Qing Chumo and the others also reacted. They threw out a handful of copper coins and roared, "Hurry up. There will be a big reward." Hearing this, the 5 sedan bearers also became spirited. They didn't even bother to pick up the coins on the ground. With a furious shout, they rushed up the mountain. Chapter 769. Reporting. In the pavilion in the middle of the lake in the Imperial Garden, Li Shimin and Empress Zhangsun were talking about something. The sudden report made the two of them stop talking. Li Shimin waved his hand, and the Jianghu guard surrounding the pavilion let a person in civilian clothes enter the pavilion. As soon as the person entered, he reported, "Your Majesty, something happened on the mountain. After you Shernan and the others reached an agreement with Zhang Feng, for some reason, Zhang Feng quarreled with Prime Minister Wei and the others. After that, Zhang Feng ran away. After that, the people of Tonghui Square and the old soldiers of the Anlu Square all rioted, causing the mountain to be in a mess." Li Shimin was shocked and hurriedly asked, "What happened in the end? Why did the rioting happen?" "I don't know the details. I only know that it seems to be because of the farce caused by Zhang Feng and Prince Zhang, causing everyone to think that it was because the emperor and the other dukes were trying to trick Zhang Feng. And this time, it's still the same." Li Shimin frowned and asked, "What about the crown prince and the others? I heard that they went down the mountain yesterday. Where are they now? Did he say anything?" Li Shimin had already spread his spies all over the mountain. On one hand, he wanted to protect Zhang Feng from those who had bad intentions. On the other hand, because of the farce caused by Zhang Feng last time, Li Shimin was not prepared at all. Therefore, Li Shimin arranged many spies on the mountain to know what happened at the first moment. As for what Zhang Feng wanted to do, Li Shimin did not care. At worst, he would just destroy the academy. This little place, this little bit of money, he, Li Shimin, could still afford it. However, would Zhang Feng mess around? Obviously not. From all the things that Zhang Feng had done before, Zhang Feng was not a person who liked to mess around. When the spy heard this, he hesitated for a long time. Just as Li Shimin was getting impatient, he said, "When I just went down the mountain, I saw the crown prince and the others returning." When Li Shimin heard that, a hint of anger flashed across his eyes. The crown prince and the others did not return to the mountain last night? No, This is getting more and more outrageous. Go and tell the crown prince that I know about this matter. Let him do as he sees fit. Yes. The spy was shocked when he heard this. Li Shimin glanced at the displeased Zhangsun Wugo and said, "Leave this matter to the crown prince. If he doesn't handle it well, let him go to the Ministry of Justice to receive his punishment." Yes. After saying that, the spy hurriedly left as if he had just been granted amnesty. After the spy left, Zhangsun Wugo said with some displeasure, "Second brother, Qingxian is still young after all, and he is the crown prince. If you do this, it is precisely because he is the crown prince that I have decided to punish him. Do you see how many people are watching every move of Xiao Shan right now? It's fine if he doesn't leave the palace, but once he does, how many pairs of eyes are watching him? All he knows is to follow Qing Chumo and the other bastards to Yan Lai restaurant. If I don't punish them this time, if the court officials bring this matter to the palace, it won't be so easy to deal with it. Why did I let him go? Maid Guanyin should know. Zhang Sun Wugo nodded. She does know, but these things require a process of growth. As the crown prince of the Tang dynasty, he is indeed somewhat. Not going to Yan Lai restaurant might be because of Zhang Feng's arrangements. Why do you think Feng Zi would arrange for them to go to Yan Lai restaurant at this time? Li Shimin stared speechlessly at Zhang Sun Wugo and sighed. You are always so partial to them. Zhang Sun Wugo covered her mouth and chuckled. After all, he is the crown prince. At home, I will educate him. But on the mountain, only Zhang Feng will teach him. We don't need to cause trouble for ourselves. Li Shimin thought for a while and finally nodded. Fine, let's see how they clean up this mess. After all, according to Zhang Feng's temper, he definitely won't do such a stupid thing. Moreover, if it was Zhang Feng, should have a piece of white paper with me in less than 2 hours after they left the mountain yesterday. This is Zhang Feng's temper. He likes to let me know everything he does. Zhang Sun Wugo was surprised. Didn't second brother say that Prince Zhang isn't someone who likes to show off? That's the case with other people. But with me? Li Shimin laughed and shook his head. This brat is only happy because he wants to make me suffer. Zhang Sun Wugo laughed. Isn't this because second brother tricked him to open an academy and scammed him of his secret winemaking recipe? If it was someone else, they would have already lost their temper with you. Ha ha ha, waves of laughter came from the palace. On the stone steps in front of a small tavern in Chang'an's Tonghui Lane, Shiva looked at the white paper in his hand. His finger moved back and forth on the words, White Deer College, for a long time. Then, he looked at the tavern's signboard and hurriedly walked out of the city. Chapter 770. White paper. Although it had only appeared for one afternoon, it was like a bomb. However, this piece of white paper was like a heavy bomb. It caused waves like an earthquake in Chang'an. This was what everyone was talking about when they were strolling around after meals. It was the same in restaurants and tea houses. Basically, the price of a piece of white paper on the black market had already reached a terrifying price of 1 tael of silver. 5 taels of silver. That was 5,000 strings of cash. Even so, there was still no market for it. After all, the people who had gotten their hands on the paper yesterday treated it like a treasure. Those who were in a hurry to buy it were the aristocratic families, the nobles, the imperial college, and the people of Hongwen-Guan. Most people were stunned by the White Deer College when they saw the words White Deer College. What was going on with White Deer College? Why were there so many troublesome things happening every now and then? Everyone's eyes couldn't help but stare. What they didn't notice was that Shiva was silently collecting information right under their noses. Shiva had been in Chang'an for 3 days. He had spent the past 3 days squatting in front of the tavern. Although the kind-hearted people in Tonghui Lane had told him that Zhang Feng had already gone to Shao Mountain to be the dean, he had not been in Chang'an for a long time. So many strange things had appeared in Chang'an, which made Shiva even more curious. Regardless of whether it was the cooperative or the beer and barbecue, they were all new to him. They were like gifts from the heavens. After asking around carefully, Shiva was even more shocked to find out that these things were actually made by Zhang Feng. This bit of information stimulated Shiva's nerves. What was this? This was great wisdom. And it was something that they really needed urgently. When he was in Jinla, he had been scrambling for information about Zhang Feng. When a caravan from the Tang dynasty had entered Jinla, Shiva had found out by chance that Zhang Feng had opened a magical academy in Chang'an. He had been unable to sit still. That was why he came to Chang'an regardless of everything. However, on the first day, his eagerness to see Zhang Feng was reduced by a lot. Instead, the things that Zhang Feng had done, as well as the things related to Zhang Feng that were circulating in Chang'an city, made Shiva's blood boil. What is this? This was the foundation of a country. Waiter, here's today's food. While Shiva was savoring the feast, the person he was waiting for finally arrived. In these 3 days, other than going to Zhang Feng's tavern to wait, Shiva also went to the dozens of braised meat shops in Chang'an. He was waiting. Waiting for someone. A person that everyone called Uncle He. He found out from the crowd that this person called Uncle He was the closest person to Zhang Feng. If one wanted to go up Shao Mountain safely, they had to go with him. Otherwise, there would be many people who wanted to go up Shao Mountain every day. However, the first hurdle was to go through the group of people from the Inlifang. However, in the past few days, Shiva's relationship with the people who delivered fresh braised meat to the Inlifang had improved. Finally, today was the day that Shiva had waited. After Shiva hurriedly paid with a bag of food, he ordered the little boy to return to the post house to report. Then, he hurriedly followed Uncle He and the others' caravan. Oh! Isn't this the prince? Why? Are you really going to look for Fengzi? Uncle He had known about this guy for a long time. However, he had been dragging it out. However, this guy had been asking about Fengzi every day, and he didn't have any bad intentions. Uncle He couldn't help but be tempted. However, he was a little conflicted. He felt a little uncomfortable that such a good thing would be sent to such a vulgar place. However, this was Fengzi's business. Moreover, he knew that Fengzi had cheated him last time. Therefore, when he first came to Chang'an, Uncle He already knew Shiva's plan. Without his approval, the workers in Tongwifang wouldn't dare to accept people without his permission. Not to mention Fengzi, with the old village chief's temper, it would be strange if he didn't break your leg. Shiva saw that Uncle He took the initiative to greet him, so he let go of his worries. He clasped his hands and said, "Shiva greets Uncle He." Ha ha ha. Uncle He laughed heartily. Everyone in the caravan laughed. Before, they were worthless slaves. However, since they followed Zhang Feng, not to mention those high-ranking officials and dignitaries, even the prince of this country bowed to them. What was this? This was all brought by Zhang Feng. They didn't dare to do this before, but today, they saw it on the streets of Chang'an City. Uncle He laughed a few times and waved his hand to stop the caravan full of goods. He let Shiva get on the ox cart. Then, the group of people staggered out of the city gate of Chang'an City. However, just as they were about to walk out of the city gate, they saw Zhu Zi's father hurriedly entering the city. When he saw Uncle He, Zhu Zi's father grabbed the reins of Uncle He's ox and said, "Something happened on the mountain." Fengzi was angry and left. Chapter 771. On the mountain. The situation at the moment was rather delicate. It was tense. Although Yuqi Gong, Qing Yaojin, and Qin Shubao were blocking the crowd, they could only keep the angry crowd outside the wooden hut. The old village chief seemed to have made up his mind. He pulled a chair over and sat at the door of Zhang Feng's wooden hut. He sipped his tea leisurely and chatted with the people around him. What should we do? Are they rebelling? Wei Zheng looked at the crowd with a sour expression and asked again, "We came here with a mission today. You should know how powerful this thing is. If people find out that even Master Li doesn't have it, won't he be embarrassed?" Everyone's expression turned even more sour when they heard that. Zhang Sun Wuji glared at Yuqi Gong and said, "It's all your fault. I told you when we came up the mountain today that this kid is amenable to persuasion but not coercion. You just wouldn't listen. Look what happened now." Yuqi Gong was also anxious. How would I know that this kid is so easily provoked? He was just scolded by Ouyang Sun and the others and didn't even dare to say a word. Why is he acting like this when it comes to us? Zhang Sun Wuji rolled his eyes. Do you think this kid is easy to deal with? Forget it, forget it. Let's just wait to be scolded when we get back today. I guess Master Li already knows about what happened here. Look at what you've done. The others heard that. They couldn't help but think of Li Shimon's words. They were also anxious. What should we do? Oh my, you guys are really... Gong grabbed his hair and paced around anxiously. He glanced outside through the crack of the door and thought of the emperor's orders. He couldn't help but feel anxious. He was so anxious that he scratched his head. Suddenly, Gong seemed to have thought of something. He slapped his thigh and said, "I remember now. It's those princes. Li Gan and the others who delayed things yesterday. Otherwise, we wouldn't be in this state. I'll go and capture that bastard Chintinu. Damn it, they should have heard about what happened on Shao Mountain, right? Why aren't they coming back?" As he spoke, Gong was about to run away. However, as soon as he opened the door, the crowd gathered around him once again. He had also made a mistake. She hurriedly closed the door. If they were enemies, he wouldn't be afraid. But these were the people of the Tang dynasty, and they were also that guy's men. He didn't dare to do that. Outside the door, Gan Ziyuan, who had been anxiously pacing around the village chief, almost knelt down the moment he saw Gong open the door. Old village chief. "Sir, just tell me, what do I have to do to let them out? Tell me, they are all friends of the dean. Do you have to be like this? Is there a need?" The old village head's eyes widen. "Didn't you see what these guys did before? Let me ask you, you also drank that white wine. What do you think it is?" That was the blood, sweat, and tears of Feng Zi's family. Moreover, Feng Zi's parents are still watching from the barren hills of Phoenix Mountain. Look at it again. It was taken away by them. Put yourself in their shoes. If your family heirloom was taken away by someone, what would you do? Old village chief. The cold sweat on Gan Ziyuan's face didn't dry at all. He looked at the veterans and became even angrier. Others might not know these veterans, but they should know Gong and the other two, right? However, these guys didn't say anything or leave. They just followed behind the crowd. Gan Ziyuan was so angry that he secretly swore that he would never deal with the people from the Serenity House again. But now, he couldn't help but be nervous. After all, the people in this room were all high dukes. If he really angered them, the consequences would be very serious. Old village chief, you also know that although the dean is very resourceful, 2 fists can't fight against 4 hands, right? So you've seen it too. Take the braised meat shop for example. If it weren't for the help of those young masters, do you think we could have turned the pig that no one cared about into something that everyone liked? Although they did play a role in this matter, how can it be compared to white wine? After all, this pork has fallen behind. How can it be compared to white wine? The old village chief stomped his walking stick a few times and pointed at the kitchen bitterly. Moreover, if it weren't for Feng Zi, you would have King gone hungry by now. If it weren't for him, fine salt, you'd still be eating vinegar cloth now. Hearing this, Gan Ziyuan couldn't continue. Although these were all handled by the dean, without them, even if the dean had 1,000 hands, he wouldn't be able to handle it. Seeing that he couldn't get through to the old village chief, Gan Ziyuan gave a fist salute and said, "Dear neighbors, I don't know what happened, but now it's definitely blown up. Once Lao Li and the others get angry, it means that all the ways the dean fought for to make money for the academy will be completely gone. At that time, you'll feel that today's matter is harming the dean. It's said that even blood-related brothers often fight, let alone them. So, I still want to say something fair. These brothers are just playing around. There's no need, really no need, unless you want to harm the dean. You can all." However, at this moment, waves of quarreling broke out at the entrance of the mountain. "They're here. Old village chief, they're here. The culprit is here." Hearing this, the old village chief hurriedly stood up and frowned. He stared into the distance and asked, "Who's here?" "It's those bastards, Chintinu and the others." Hearing this, the old village chief was instantly enraged. "It's all because of you bastards. If it weren't for you, would Feng Zi be like this today? Men, tie him up and send him to the authorities." Chapter 772. He heard the voices outside. The eyes of Qing Yaojin and the others lit up. He didn't care if they would do anything to his son. He just leaned against the crack of the door and looked outside. At this moment, Qing Chimo and the others were dumbfounded. As soon as they reached the mountain gate, they were frightened by the angry people and retreated. Although Qing Chimo and the others were afraid, they still stood in front of Li Qingxian at the critical moment. Each of them picked up a cobblestone and pointed at the crowd, shouting angrily, "What do you want to do? Step back. All of you, step back for Lao Tzu. If you don't step back, Lao Tzu, Lao Tzu. Ouch, F***ck, who threw donkey dung at me? Here. Hey, you bastard, bastard." Not waiting for him to finish, someone threw a pile of donkey dung at Qing Chimo and the others, one after another, causing them to howl in grief. Bad people, you are bad people. Steamed Bun had somehow squeezed to the front of the crowd. He pouted and looked very cute. Qing Chimo hurriedly picked up Steamed Bun under the rain of bullets and asked, "Steamed Bun, be good. Tell me what's going on. Tell me, I'll give you this." As he spoke, Qing Chimo hurriedly took out a golden leaf from his bosom. Children liked this kind of strange thing. After seeing the golden leaf in Qing Chimo's hand, the anger on Steamed Bun's face instantly disappeared without a trace. He looked at the golden leaf in Qing Chimo's hand and wrapped his arms around his neck. "Take it, it's for you. Tell me, what happened to your brother Feng Zi?" "Oh." Steamed Bun looked guiltily at his mother and the others who were glaring at him. He secretly held the golden leaf in his hand and said, "Brother Feng Zi was angered by the bad people inside and ran away. When he left, he told us to block these bad people. Yes, and you guys." When Qing Chimo and the others heard this, their eyes almost popped out. How could they not know why they had come up the mountain today? Perhaps he was trying to trick Zhang Feng because of paper. Was Feng Zi so easy to trick? Li Qingxian hurriedly asked, "Where did Feng Zi go?" "Steamed Bun. Do you want to be beaten up?" the old village chief roared. However, it was already too late. Steamed Bun had already pointed to the valley on the right. How could Li Qingxian and the others not know? That was the location of the forging workshop. Qing Chimo and the others looked at each other. They hurriedly threw down the steamed buns and ran with her in their arms. For this matter, Zhang Feng had to come out. Otherwise, there would be a big mess today. Gan Ziyuan and the others heaved a sigh of relief when they saw Qing Chimo and the others leave in a hurry. This matter could finally be resolved. In the distance, Yu Shinan and the others were smiling as they looked over. Seeing Qing Chimo and the others rush off in another direction, they couldn't help but nod in agreement. "Brother Bashi, do you think he has such great appeal now?" Ouyang Sun asked in surprise. Yu Shinan narrowed his eyes, looked at the house, and then looked into the distance. He smiled and said, "You don't say. This kid has an indescribable charm. Not only can he make the emperor, the crown prince, and the others like him, but he can also make ordinary people like him. This is just like what old man Kong once said. It's very apt." Of course, everyone knew what Yu Shinan was talking about. However, this made them even more shocked. At this moment, with his hands behind his back, Yu Shinan looked at the people chasing behind him and Wei Zhang and the others who were rushing over. He said indifferently, "He once said something. I don't know if you've heard it." It was also because of this sentence that old man decided to go up the mountain. Chu Suiliang stared and asked, "What shocking words did he say again?" Frowning and coldly facing thousands of people's censure, bowing down and willing to be a child's ox. Buzz. When Yu Shinan's voice fell, everyone was shocked. Although they couldn't figure out which famous sentence it was in an ancient book even after racking their brains, the meaning of this sentence shocked everyone instantly like a heavy hammer. "Brother Bashi, you said that this was what Zhang Feng said? How can he say such words? This is definitely a great scholar who has seen through the world of mortals. No, only an expert can say such words, right?" him. Chu Suiliang, Xue Ji, and the others were furious. How could this be something that a 20-year-old brat could say? This was simply going to scare people to death, all right? But Yu Shinan nodded and said, that's right, it was that little brat who said it. Moreover, it was the emperor himself who said it to this old man. Do you think that the emperor is trying to flatter that little brat? The emperor, could he say such words? No. They knew the emperor. Therefore, at this time, looking at Xing Chumo and the others who were about to disappear from their sight, they couldn't help but look at the spirit. It seemed that they wanted to see through the layers of barriers and see what kind of monster that kid was. Ouyang Sun swallowed a mouthful of saliva with difficulty and said, Brother Bashi, who is this kid's teacher? Which expert's disciple is he? Is it Mr. Yushan? Or? Yu Shinan smiled bitterly, I don't know. I heard that this kid is quite mysterious, but he is not the disciple of someone we know. You know, I once heard Yuan Tiangang say that there are as many strange people in this world as there are hairs on an ox. It's just that we don't have the affinity. Chapter 773. On the other side. In a call in the depths of Mount Shao. It was by the rapids under the building of the student and teacher dormitory. This was where the forging workshop was located. At this time, the workshop had only slightly chiseled one side of the steep mountain wall, and then used bricks and cement to level out a piece of flat ground. On the flat ground, a mess of forging tools were piled up everywhere. However, there was not a single blacksmith to be seen. Only Zhang Feng was there. He lit up a small smelting furnace and threw pieces of scrap iron into the crucible. Looking at the red iron, Zhang Feng couldn't help but listen to something. Then he looked in the direction of the mountain gate and muttered, strange, according to these people's nature, they should have arrived by now. It's been an hour, why haven't they come yet? This is not their style. Zhang Feng sighed and continued to look at the furnace fire, thinking about what to do in the future. Now, the academy could officially start in a month. That was the beginning of September after the Mid-Autumn Festival. It was no different from the beginning of September in his previous life. However, the problem was that this was the Tang dynasty, and the most important thing was the textbooks. Although he had paid a great price to keep Yu Shinan and the others on the mountain, it was still a problem how to get the textbooks. Moreover, the matter this time was a little beyond his expectations. He originally thought that all the students would be happy and even grateful when this paper was released. But, the reality seemed to be a little different from what he thought. Especially the problem of the price. Although the cost was very low, once this low-cost paper was released, Extraordinary would not let him make a profit. Instead, it would become something that would cost him his life. At this time, how could he not see the behavior of Yu Shinan and the others? It seemed that they were really taking advantage of him. In fact, they wanted to take the unknown risk for him. How could he, who had lived 2 lives, not know these things? As for Lao Li and the others, Zhang Feng really didn't want them to stand out. How good would it be if the 4 great scholars stood out to take the blame? Why did he have to drag them down? Fengzi, hurry to the mountain gate, something happened. At this moment, Zhang Sun unleashed his potential and rushed to the front of the crowd, arriving at Zhang Feng's workshop. He immediately interrupted Zhang Feng's train of thought. Zhang Feng took a deep breath and glanced at Zhang Sun. He shook his head and said, I've thought about it and decided not to go. Feng Zi, aren't you just a piece of paper? Now that Old Wei and the others are stuck in the door, how can this go on? It's not that I don't want to give it to them. Tell me, when did I refuse to give you anything? If there's anything good, I'll give it to you immediately, okay? Zhang Sun pursed his lips. Those sunglasses of yours, why didn't you get one for us? Zhang Feng felt a headache coming on. Alright. When the forging workshop is done, I'll do it for you, alright? But this has nothing to do with sunglasses. Think about it. What kind of consequences will my paper cause? Consequences? Zhang Sun scratched the back of his head and looked at Zhang Feng in confusion. At this moment, only then did Li Qingxian and the others arrive breathlessly. As soon as they arrived, Qing Chumo sat down on the ground and panted heavily. Fengzi, you have to uphold justice for us. Look at your brother's face. Is this something a human can do? This is all because of those stubborn and unruly people. All right. Zhang Feng quickly interrupted him. Looking at the angry crowd in Tonghui workshop behind him, he cupped his fists and said, "Let's go. This is a misunderstanding. Fengzi, you have something to say. Did these guys force you? It's okay if you don't want to say it. Just blink and we'll throw him down the mountain." Qing Chumo and the others heard this and subconsciously looked at the cliff below the workshop. They hurriedly went inside with a guilty conscience. Zhang Feng hurriedly stopped them and said, "How is this forced? This is a misunderstanding. I was just joking when I asked you to stop them. We were just joking." Zhu Zi's father and Jing Tufu waved the weapons in their hands and glared at them. "Fengzi, don't be afraid. If there's anything, I'll uphold justice for you. Even if we have to go to court, we'll let these stubborn Chang and know that we, Tonghui." Zhu Zi's father, Jing Tufu, can you guys stop for a while? This is really a joke. You guys go and do what you're supposed to do. I'm still busy. Zhang Feng tried his best to persuade them. Only then did they disperse. It was as if they could rush over at any time if something went wrong. After a long time, seeing that Zhang Feng and the others were fine, they slowly left. After they left, Li Qingxian continued to ask Zhang Sun the question and said, "Fengzi, what are you going to do about this? This is too big." Zhang Feng nodded. "You guys really don't understand? Alright, since you guys don't understand, I'll explain it to you. This is actually a class, a psychology class. Today, I'll let you guys see what I, Zhang Feng, am capable of. What do you think? Also, think about it carefully. Everything that happened today, why did I only give you Shernan and the others paper and not your father?" Chapter 774. Hearing this, Li Qingxian couldn't help but frown. He did know about this. However, in his opinion, the appearance of paper blank was bound to become a trend, and the current trend of valuing martial arts over literature in the Tang dynasty would disappear in an instant. Didn't many people in the imperial court say that the emperor valued martial arts over literature? At this time, everyone in the imperial court knew that on the surface, White Deer College on Shao Mountain was mine, which meant that it was the emperor's order. Once paper blank appeared, then, Fengzi, do you mean that once this thing appears, it will directly cause the hatred of the big clans? Dugo asked after thinking for a long time. Zhang Feng nodded, but then shook his head. Let's go down the mountain and have a drink. By the way, let's call them. Let's talk about this openly today. While speaking, Zhang Feng glanced at the burned smelting furnace and could only sigh. It seemed that this thing was really a specialization in different fields. It was really difficult to make a piece of steel with one's own hands. On the way down the mountain, Zhang Feng didn't mention anything about papermaking, and even the smelting furnace was a topic of aptitude. Zhang Sun also hurried up the mountain. Seeing Ouyang Sun and others ask, he said the word psychology. Instantly, the four great scholars were completely lost in thought. And also took this opportunity to tell Zhang Sun Wuji and others about Zhang Feng's intention. What could they say? After knowing that Zhang Feng didn't do it on purpose, they were overjoyed and hurried down the mountain with Zhang Sun. An hour later, men and women who wanted to admire Zhang Feng's true appearance had long since gathered around the thatched stall filled with fermented wine. Especially those women from Chang'an. After they found out that Zhang Feng was not married, they were even more desperate. Every day, they would come to the market square at the foot of the mountain to see if they could get lucky and see Zhang Feng. As for the youths, they wanted to squat here, hoping to gain Zhang Feng's approval or favor and be summoned up the mountain. Now, White Deer College was famous. Every day, people who wanted to go up the mountain to study could line up from the entrance of Cheng and City to Shao Mountain for a round trip. However, White Deer College's enrollment requirements had also been raised. Under Zhang Feng's instructions, along with Li Qingxian and Du Gou's group of 3, they set up a student recruitment office in this new market, which was also the entrance to White Deer College. Everyone who wanted to go up the mountain was reported here. As for the students, it was even simpler. If you were given a list, you would have already filled it out or drawn some patterns that could be clearly recognized by everyone. As long as you were literate or knew how to cook, you would be able to get in. However, there were still some exceptions. For example, it was difficult for those who came from a slightly better family, those who were just idling around and waiting for death. After all, those who could stay in this student recruitment office were basically people who were well versed in Cheng and City or were involved in the affairs of the various prefectures. You want to bluff your way through? Save it then. At this moment, the only chance was to wait for Dean Zhangfeng to come down the mountain and show off your skills in front of him. This was what the staff at the student recruitment office said. At this moment, the reason why everyone was gathered around the fermented glutinous rice paste stall was because Zhang Feng had actually come. Amidst the exclamations of the women, Zhang Feng led a group of rich second generations from Cheng and City and sat in front of the glutinous rice stall. Zhang Feng even waved at the crowd in an extremely showy manner. In an instant, all the women were infatuated. Wow! Lord Zhang, you're so handsome. I heard that Lord Zhang is still a virgin. Sisters, don't fight for him. He's mine. Get lost. Why don't you look in the mirror and see if you can compare with Miss Zhang? Can you compare with Miss Jingshu from Yanlai Restaurant? You're not worthy. In the crowd, a woman who was as strong as Gao Can glared at Zhang Feng with red eyes and roared. In an instant, a group of women asked 3 questions in a row. However, Zhang Feng pretended not to see or hear anything. He cupped his fists and said, "Ladies and gentlemen, I've invited my friends to a banquet again today. I have something important to discuss with them. Later, if you have any problems, you can look for this young master. He will be fully responsible for it." As he spoke, Zhang Feng pointed at Li Qingxian. Li Qingxian looked at the boiling sea of people and instantly felt like his head was about to explode. "Master, we're all from Cheng and City. We've long heard of Lord Zhang's benevolence and righteousness. Although we've indeed wasted our time in the past, with your enlightenment, we'd like to enter White Deer College. We hope that Master." "That's right, Master. We've heard that in books, education is open to all. We hope that Master can understand the hardships we're going through to learn." "Lord Zhu, Master," Zhang Feng was speechless. "If you had any real ability, would you have been blocked? Ladies and gentlemen, I'm sure you haven't met the requirements of the college. However, it doesn't matter. The college will still recruit students next year. If you're really interested in learning, why don't you learn a skill at home? When you enter the college, you might be able to get a good score. If you're outstanding, you might even be able to learn from me. What do you think? Really? Is that true? Master is too careless." Chapter 775. Finally. Under the influence of Zhang Feng's great conmen, these people ran away in a daze. As for those women, Zhang Feng just responded with a charming smile. In bursts of exclamations, everyone scattered like birds and beasts. Just when Zhang Feng thought that his charm had reached such a level, he turned around and saw Yu Qigong, who was a killjoy, staring at him with his bell-sized eyes. Qing Yaojin and Yu Qigong were standing behind him. They were doing strange things. Zhang Feng smiled embarrassedly. "Liao, go to the food factory and tell them what I said. Give me good food and wine." Hearing this, Liao, who was hiding on the side, hurriedly wiped the cold sweat on his face and ran away. Zhang Feng pointed to the table. Qing Chumo and the others tactfully put the 3 tables together. Then they sat down. As soon as they sat down, Wei Jing couldn't wait to ask, Fengzi, tell me why you don't give us paper? Even if you don't give it to us, you should at least give some to Lao Li, right? After all, Zhang Feng waved his hand and stopped Wei Zheng. He sighed and said, Old Wei, the more I have difficulties. What difficulties? Wei Zheng asked. Fang Xianling and the others also stroked their beards and looked at Zhang Feng at this time. Zhang Feng looked at the market square and said, As you can see, Shao Mountain has undergone earth-shaking changes since I came here. But this also requires money to operate. What management? Now there are about 5,000 people on this mountain. That's more than 5,000 mouths to feed. I'm alone, how can I get to the point? Wei Zheng coughed and said. Zhang Feng smacked his lips. He didn't say anything. Wei Zheng was so anxious that he wanted to beat him. But when he turned around, he found that Lao He and the others were carrying a big steamer basket and food boxes of various sizes. Only then did he sit down again. After Old He served the dishes, Zhang Feng said, Old He, we still have some serious matters to discuss. Keep an eye on us and don't let anyone get close. This is a matter of life and death. Old He naturally knew what had happened on the mountain. When he heard Zhang Feng's words, he glanced at Wei Zheng and the others with a serious expression. Then, he hurriedly nodded and left. A moment later, a large group of men holding butcher's knives rushed out of the food factory and surrounded the fermented wine spy. Zhang Feng said indifferently, If you want to know the reason, you should go back and ask Lao Li what he promised me. Back then, if it weren't for his words, I wouldn't have bothered to set up a workshop so quickly. But it's been a few days, and there's been no news of what he promised me. I've sent someone to ask around, and the thing he said was not in Jianghu City at all. I've also looked into it. If it weren't for my quick wits, I would have been fooled by him. After Li Shimin tricked him with Emperor Yang's sword, Zhang Feng almost couldn't sleep the whole night. He thought about it carefully again and again. From the novels, television shows, movies, unofficial histories, and Tang histories of his previous life, he hadn't heard of the whereabouts of Emperor Yang's sword. Even if it did exist, it wouldn't have appeared in a place as far away as Jianghu City. In his memory, the Tang histories once said that Emperor Yang had been surrounded in the underground palace by Li Shimin and his men. Emperor Yang then committed suicide. In other words, his personal sword was either kept in the royal treasury as something to show off, or it was awarded to a meritorious official. How could it be among the common people? Zhang Feng suddenly realized that he had been fooled. However, Wei Zheng and the others didn't know what the emperor had promised Zhang Feng. On second thought, Wei Zheng, Fang Xianling, and the others discussed and said, Feng Zi, this isn't the time to throw a tantrum. You should know that although paper is good, it's not something you can bear alone. Once you use paper, it's equivalent to making the books that those aristocratic families are so proud of become worthless in an instant. Do you think you would do the same if someone made something that you treasured become worthless in an instant? The more Wei Zheng spoke, the more serious his expression became. It was as if this matter was so serious that someone would come to kill Zhang Feng at any time. Zhang Feng, on the other hand, was indifferent. Seeing this, Wei Zheng glanced at Zhang Sun Wuji. Zhang Sun Wuji sighed and said, Feng Zi, let's not talk about other things. Just now on the mountain, you said in front of the 4 great scholars that 1 copper coin per kilogram of paper. Is that true? It's true, but that's a matter for the future. Zhang Sun Wuji heard this and looked at Wei Zheng and the others. Yu Qigong knocked on the table and said, Boy, you're courting death. You know the value of Xian paper. I know. But I didn't say that paper is so cheap now. This is a kind of strategy. Do you understand strategy? Zhang Feng knocked on the table. Li Qingxian immediately pricked up his ears and said, I'd like to hear more. The so-called strategy of planning before acting is not only used in military books. This thing can be used in many ways. For example, how can I, Zhang Feng, not know that if I sell it too cheaply, there will be middlemen who will profit from the difference? Wei Zheng heard this and nodded. Since you've thought of it, then why did you? I said, this is a kind of strategy. What is it? This is where my charm lies. You've known me for so long. Have you ever seen me, Zhang Feng, do that kind of business without any cost? No. Chapter 776. The so-called planning before acting is actually psychology. I called you here today to discuss this matter with you. After Zhang Feng finished speaking, Wei Zheng, Yu Qigong, and Qing Yaojin asked in unison, "What is this psychological warfare you speak of?" "That's not right." Wei Zheng added, "It's psychology." "Could this be a new subject in your academy?" Zhang Feng rubbed his forehead and said, "It can be considered a new subject in my academy. However, let's not talk about this today. Let's talk about paper first. How much do you think this paper should be sold for?" 1,000. No matter what, it can't be lower than Xian paper. Old man agrees too. Old man thinks that it's appropriate to sell this paper for 1,000 strings of cash. However, do you think anyone will buy it? The few of them spoke one after another. Li Qingxian and the others nodded in contemplation, frowning occasionally. Zhang Feng, on the other hand, was eating and drinking the entire time with a smile without saying a word. After a long time, Zhang Feng said, "Actually, I initially wanted to sell this paper for 1,000 strings of cash. But after thinking about it, Li Gan, you also know the cost of this thing, so I felt that 100 copper coins would be the most appropriate. But I also felt that if I really did that, it would definitely benefit other profiteers. So I divided the paper mill's shares into 6 portions, one for each family. What about me? Also, what about Old Wei?" Yu Qigong could not take it anymore and hurriedly stepped forward. He was extremely jealous of the paper mill. Not to mention the paper mill, just the salt mine alone was enough to make these old fogies rich. That was only 10% of the shares. Now, there was the paper mill as well. Heavens! It was already good enough that he could choke Zhang Feng and ask him for it. When Zhang Feng heard this, he said, "Don't worry. Since we're all here, we're all brothers. We'll temporarily split the papermaking workshop like this. However, I'll leave the issue of selling to you. I only want 700 copper coins. As for how much you sell, I don't care." When Yu Qigong heard this, his eyes, which were as big as copper bells, instantly narrowed into crescents. Although he didn't get 10% of the profits, what the F***ck was this? This was even more profitable than the dividends they had received. It was simply a huge profit. Even if he sold it for 1,000 copper coins per caddy, he would still be able to earn 300 copper coins. Oh my god. Is this the manifestation of my Yuqi clan's ancestor? Compared to Yu Qigong's excitement, Qin Xiong was a little better. Seeing this, he also cupped his fists in excitement. "Little friend, don't worry. I, Old Wei, will take this matter to heart. I definitely won't accept too much. I'm selling it at a discount." When Yu Qigong heard this, the thoughts in his mind instantly vanished. Wei Zheng and the others didn't mind. Li Qingxian, on the other hand, couldn't sit still. "Feng Zi, if they all have one, then what about me? How about me?" When they heard this, half of the fire in their hearts was extinguished. Right, if they all had one, then what about the crown prince? What about the emperor? This was distributed according to family members. How could the emperor be the same as them and only get 10% of the profits? Zhang Feng hadn't thought that far. He thought about it and said, "You and your father will each get 10%. When he heard this, Li Qingxian sat there happily and counted with his fingers. The others also felt a little more at ease. Cough cough, Feng Zi, have you forgotten that there's still the matter of the honorary vice president? Zhang Sun Wuji waited for the others to finish speaking before asking leisurely. Zhang Feng's eyes instantly widened. Right, how could he have forgotten about that old man? What the F***ck? After some thought, Zhang Feng said, "Well, when Lao Li delivers the things he promised me, I'll arrange it myself." Enough talk, let's drink, drink. Wait a moment. After they finished dividing the spoils, Wei Zheng held down Zhang Feng's chopsticks and asked with a smile, now that we've finished talking, can you tell us why you didn't give us the paper? If this gets out, Lao Li and the rest of us will lose face in Cheng and city. You're not a good brother. When Zhang Feng saw that they had brought the topic back to this, he knew that he couldn't avoid it. He could only sigh and say, I know how you feel, but you should know that this is not something I can decide. Once the white paper is released, it will inevitably have a conflict of interest with the 4 major paper mills in Cheng and city and the Ministry of Works. The reason why I didn't give it to you was that Old Li broke his promise to me. Most importantly, I didn't want to get you involved in this. Do you know why I gave it to the 4 great scholars? When they heard this, they shook their heads. Even if they had their own thoughts, they didn't dare to make wild guesses. That's because, as great scholars, they come from aristocratic families with big businesses. With the 4 great scholars standing in front of them, why do you insist on sticking your heads in front of them? I know that you have some connections in the officialdom, but can you compare to the 4 scholars? Even the emperor has to treat them with respect. They have a lot of disciples and whatnot. If they were to announce that this thing was useful, even if it was a pile of dog poop, people would rush to get it. But what about you? You're just merchants. Once you're involved in this matter, even if you don't get killed, you won't be able to escape. Do you understand? Chapter 777. They were not fools. On the contrary. To be able to get to the position of duke. How could they not know these things? But Zhang Feng did not know their identities. If he knew, he would not dare to say so. The key problem was that the boy did not know yet. From the perspective of a businessman, Zhang Feng was really maximizing his own safety and their safety by doing so. He did not want them to become the target of the aristocratic family's anger. But it was different this time. This time. They only needed to think for a moment to realize that paper's interests were not something that a few Confucian scholars could handle. But Zhang Feng was just minimizing the risk. As for whether Zhang Feng had a backup plan, they did not know yet. But after talking for so long, this boy did not seem to give them anything. Zhang Sun Wuji narrowed his eyes, the chopsticks in his hand knocked on the plate, and said, Fengzi, you have talked for so long. Even if you give us a little of this paper, it will be easy for us, right? Such a good thing, do you think we should give it to you or not? We want to take some back now. While speaking, Zhang Sun Wuji sighed and said with a bitter smile, to be honest, last night, my wife was angry because of paper blank. That was why we quarreled for the whole night. She asked me to take some back. You also know that women have nothing to do, so all they do is follow the people in the market and compete with each other. Previously, when Jia Chongzi came to the mountain, all the neighbors knew about it. Now, there's paper by, but we didn't know about it. This has made my wife lose face. If I can't bring her back today, Hearing this, everyone's eyes lit up. They all came up with the trick of injuring themselves. That's right, Fengzi. My wife is a famous tigress. Last night, I was drinking with Lao Li and the others. That guy rushed in, twisted my ear, and dragged me home. Look at my ear, look, how red is it? Qing Yaojin pointed at his blackened earlobe and twisted it before saying. Zhang Feng was so embarrassed that his cancer was acting up. Isn't that so? Look, all of us were drinking together last night. Ever since old Chen's shrew came, almost everyone came. This made us lose face. Zhang Feng pursed his lips as he listened to their bitter drama. He said in a speechless manner, everyone, now that I've distributed the profits of the paper mill, why don't you all just take it yourselves? Everyone was stunned when they heard this. Then, he stood up and ran away in ecstasy. Zhang Feng hurriedly called out to the few people and said, however, the paper for these 4 great scholars every month has to be provided by you all. Why? Didn't you just say that it would come from your share? How did it become? Everyone was instantly displeased. 200 pounds of paper per person per month. Although it wasn't much, it was still money. But Zhang Feng didn't care. If he had to pay for everything, wouldn't he suffer a huge loss? I don't care about that. You've all seen it for yourselves. What little I have is only enough for the daily expenses of the academy. How can I have any more? You don't want the reputation of the academy to be tarnished because there's no paper to use, right? If outsiders know that I, Zhang Feng, only care about selling paper to make money and don't care about the use of the academy, what will the world think of me? Everyone heard this and pondered for a moment. Wei Jing asked, why do you need so much paper? Printing textbooks, students' daily writing practice, homework, which one doesn't need paper? Wei Jing opened his mouth. He really didn't understand what this academy was teaching. It was completely different from what was taught in any academy in the Great Tang. What kind of academy would need so much paper? And such white paper? Wasn't that cheap straw paper good to use? Wasn't wooden planks good to use? Why did they have to use such good white paper? If they weren't prodigal, what were they? Wei Jing sighed. Well, since that's the case, the paper for the 4 of them can be counted as ours. Let's go take the paper home now. Otherwise, it will be troublesome if we get back late. As they spoke, they hurried off again. Li Qingxian and the others also took the opportunity to slip away. They had no choice. If they didn't go, these masters probably wouldn't even be able to enter the door of the paper mill. How could the old village chief personally guard the door, who valued paper more than their lives? If they went like this, it would be strange if their legs weren't broken. Zhang Feng looked at them in a hurry and was speechless. But at this moment, Yu Qigong seemed to have thought of something. He hurried back again. Fengzi, I have something to discuss with you. What do you think? Zhang Feng stared at Yu Qigong with some vigilance. After observing for a long time and finding nothing unusual, he said, tell me about it. Well, don't worry about anything. I just think that my son is in the academy, right? I want him to follow you. What do you think? In this way, if anyone wants to bully you, they can guarantee that they will beat up whoever you point at. There's also a boy surnamed Niu. That boy is not bad. He's a good fighter. So, you're treating my place as a thug concentration camp? You beat up whoever you don't like? Then can I let your son beat you up? Without waiting for Zhang Feng's reply, Yu Qigong had already rushed off to chase after Wei Zheng and the others. He said from afar, it's settled then. Tonight, I'll let them stand guard for you. Go, 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 go away. Lao Tzu, this is the academy. The academy. It's not a thug concentration camp, nor is it a bandit den. If you dare to get it, I'll pack it up and send it back to you. You're not allowed to take half a step into the academy. He only knew that black-clothed Arabia had entered the Tang dynasty during the Li Ji era. However, he didn't expect that black-clothed Arabia had already begun to infiltrate at this time. Moreover, they even created this thing that would cause panic in the future world. Their intentions were really hateful. What did black-clothed Arabia want to do? Could it be that my name, Zhang Feng, and the things created by Lao Tzu have spread to black-clothed Arabia? Or could it be that my transmigration caused a butterfly effect? No matter which it was, Zhang Feng couldn't help but be alarmed at this time. This is a banknote worth 10 taels of silver. If there are more in the future, continue to send it to me. Zhang Feng didn't care too much. He directly took out a banknote and said, I don't like anything else, but this is my favorite. If you come across it, please send it to me. I'll buy it at double the price. As he spoke, Zhang Feng didn't have time to do anything else. He waved at a person from Tonghui Square who was buying things in the distance. Immediately go find Xing Tiniu and the others and give this to them. Remember, no matter what, don't keep it for yourself. This thing must be known by others. This is something that will cause the 9 generations of your family to be executed. Quickly go and have him find someone. If they ask, tell them to spread out and search for this thing at all costs. Especially the trade route from Longyu to Chang'an. If you see it, burn it in front of them. If they have any questions, I will tell them tonight. That person's expression suddenly changed. He didn't care about anything else and hurriedly went up the mountain. Immediately after, Zhang Feng and the black-clothed Arabian merchant talked for a while. After confirming that this was really all that was left in the Tang dynasty, he slowly left. However, the thing that he was thinking about the most in his mind was still Ma Faizan. However, this was a matter for the future. It was useless to think too much about it now. He didn't know whether this was the doing of the landowning clans or something else, but he was certain of one thing: White Deer College had attracted attention. This wasn't a good thing. Boss, there's good vanilla here. Do you want it? However, at this moment, a voice abruptly interrupted Zhang Feng's thoughts. In front of him was a Persian carrying a bundle of vanilla, blocking Zhang Feng's path. Zhang Feng was about to get angry, but in the end, his gaze froze the instant he saw the vanilla. Many, they are all over the mountain. The bearded man answered truthfully. After all, he had met a rich man, how could he dare to neglect him? Moreover, he was a noble viscount of the Tang dynasty and the dean of the academy. He did not dare to neglect him. I need this kind of grass. As you can see, my academy is being built. I need this kind of grass that is strong in absorbing water and moisture-proof. Go back now. I don't want any herbs. You said that you have a lot of them. I want a lot of them now. You should be able to make a lot of money. How much do you think I can buy with this money? The beard was a little confused. These were things that even cows and horses would not eat on weekdays. What on earth did this lord of the Tang dynasty want to do? Did he want so much? But he did not have time to think too much about it. After all, everyone knew what happened on the mountain now. The Hu merchant did not even think about it and said, if it's the honorable dean, you can wait. Within 3 days, I will collect all the herbs from all the merchants in Chang'an. For the time being, there may be more than 100 caddies. You can use it first. After a month, the money is enough to buy all the herbs in our tribe. How much? At least 1 million caddies. Well, if there is really so much, you can send them all. I want them all. When the time comes, I will give you another 100 taels. How about that? When the Hu merchant heard this, he was so excited that his teeth were chattering. He hurriedly bowed his head and kowtowed. The dean is really benevolent and righteous. You are the savior of my tribe. Zhang Feng did not want to talk nonsense with him. The point was that now, when the merchants saw that Zhang Feng had taken the most common herb and had taken a fancy to this inconspicuous herb, they all surrounded him crazily. At this time, Zhang Feng regretted not bringing Gao Ken with him. That guy was big and burly. If he did not speak, he only needed to stand there and he would be a natural bodyguard. But it was too late to say anything now. Zhang Feng could only admit defeat. Holding a large pile of tobacco, he said with a solemn expression, everyone, I still have something important to do today. If you come across any treasures tomorrow, you can come here. I will come back tomorrow. How about that? Without waiting for anyone to react, Zhang Feng scampered off. As he ran, the smell of tobacco filled the tip of his nose. Zhang Feng laughed so hard that his teeth could not be contained. Good stuff, this was really good stuff. He had a premonition that once this thing came out, it would be. Who would be the first big smoker? Not to mention anything else. At the very least. He had not smelled such a tempting smell for almost a year. He really wanted this thing too much. Big cigarettes, this was a good thing to comfort the loneliness in the middle of the night. It was a rare treasure. It was a treasure that belonged to men. Chapter 780. Zhang Feng didn't care about anything else. He hurriedly went up the mountain. The first thing he did was to find Gao Ken, who was helping at the pig slaughtering farm. After bringing him back to the mountain, he gave him a strict order. From now on, I'll give you 10 minutes to eat, drink, and use the toilet. After you're done, before I come out, if anyone comes, tell them that I'm researching something good and that they shouldn't disturb me. Understand? Gao Ken used his blood-stained hand to wipe his nose, nodded his head, and turned to leave. Zhang Feng opened his mouth and gave Gao Ken a thumbs up. Then he turned around and closed the door with a bang. As soon as he entered the door, Zhang Feng couldn't wait to put the tobacco on the table. He picked up the white paper that Yu Shinan and the others put on the table and began to cut it. Then he pondered and used his eyes to look for what he needed in the room. At the same time, when Zhang Feng entered the door, Yu Shinan and the others also encountered a problem and quarreled with Zheng Tufu. They were right next to the waterfall. Zheng Tufu almost used his knife. I say, old man, you're really shameless. This is the villa area that Feng Zi said. Without his permission, no one is allowed to mess around here. You guys didn't do anything. Not only did you point and talk about it, but you also forced to buy this house. Do you know who this house belongs to? It's our dean's. Yu Shinan also couldn't take it. When had he been pointed at and scolded by a lowly butcher like this? He was so angry that his whole body was trembling. Fool. You're really a fool. We were just talking about it. We didn't say that we were going to move here. Why are you so against us? Against? Zheng Tufu laughed rudely. You old things bullied Feng Zi just because you're a great scholar. Don't think that I don't know. When you came out, Feng Zi ran away in anger. Yes, you're high and mighty. We can't afford to offend you, but we're also human. Do we deserve to be bullied by you? Fool. You're really infuriating, old man. Yu Shinan was so angry that he wanted to vomit blood. Initially, they were in a good mood. The more they looked at the academy, the more they liked it. They had never seen such an architectural style and structure before. The few of them were really thinking about whether they should ask Zhang Feng for a house. After all, they were going up the mountain. They definitely couldn't be careless about where they lived. But who would have thought that their conversation would be overheard by this boorish fellow? He pointed at their noses and scolded them. How could anyone endure this? At this moment, Yu Shinan and the others were so angry that their faces turned pale. You boorish man, don't try to hurt people with your words. The old man has taught and educated people all his life. This time, it was your headmaster who personally invited him up the mountain. If he is unwilling, we can leave. Don't humiliate us here. Zheng Tufu couldn't take it anymore. The quarrel here was also heard by the construction workers in the villa area. This was especially true for Ching Chimo. When he heard the quarrel and looked around, he was scared out of his wits. How could he dare to delay? She scampered over. Get to work. Whoever dares to slack off will have no food today. Ching Chimo shouted angrily. He called Zhang Sun, Chong, and Wei Shuyu and hurried over. Sun Simiao, who lived not far away, also heard the quarrel. Because he couldn't see clearly, his expression changed drastically after he listened carefully. Tong, come with me over there quickly. He recognized the voice. It was Yu Shinan's voice. He also knew that the other voice belonged to Zheng Tufu. He didn't understand why a great scholar and a butcher were quarreling. When the crowd hurried over to mediate the quarrel, Zheng Tufu became even more agitated. He tore open his shirt and pointed at Yu Shinan and the others. You're all here. You're just in time. Come and be the judge. What kind of great scholar is this? He asked the headmaster for things the moment he came up the mountain. He wants this and that, and now he's even thinking about the villa we built for the headmaster. Look at what kind of place the headmaster is living in now. Is that a place for people to live? A wooden house. Even I am living in a brick house, but the headmaster would rather give it to us than live in it himself. What is this? This is the model of a teacher. What about them? Enough. Shut up. Impudent. Following a few angry shouts. Only then did Jianghu shut his mouth in displeasure. Wei Shuyu and the others stared at Yu Shinan and the others in horror. For sirs, please don't blame him. He doesn't know what's going on, so he was just deceived. Please don't lower yourself to his level for the sake of Lao Li and Feng Zi. I've already sent someone to inform Feng Zi about this. Brother Bashi, trust me. Don't be angry. It's bad for your health. Let's go to my bamboo house and have a seat. Let's talk about this properly. Although Sun Simiao didn't know what had happened, he could tell from Jianghu's words that something was amiss. Although he still didn't know what was going on, it seemed like something big happened at the mountain gate. And at this moment, Zhang Feng, who had just lit a homemade cigar, was called open by a cry outside the door. Feng Zi, bad news. Something happened. Jianghu is pointing at the noses of the four great scholars and scolding them. Hearing this, Zhang Feng's vision turned black and he almost fainted. Motherf *Ker, why is he causing trouble for Lao Tzu every day? Let's go, quickly. Do you really want others to know that our White Deer College is mistreating the scholars tonight? Chapter 782. Everyone's face changed when they heard that. Although they didn't study, the names of these people were as famous as the emperor. If this spread out, wouldn't they be stabbed in the back? At the thought of this, everyone scattered in an instant. Ching Chimo and the others also prostrated themselves in admiration and gave him a thumbs up. Zhang Feng just pursed his lips. What are you waiting for? Get lost and wait for me. I'll teach you a lesson later. I don't want you to be so idle that you can't even handle such a small thing. You're Zhang Feng's brothers. Shame on you. Ching Chimo and Zhang Sun looked at each other and ran away in an instant. Zhang Feng took a deep breath, rubbed his face, and forcefully squeezed out a wisp of a smile before entering the bamboo house. As soon as he entered, Zhang Feng hurriedly cupped his fists and said, "Oh, I'm sorry. It's all my fault. Please don't be angry. Nice to meet you, Mr. Divine Doctor. Young friend, please sit down. Don't be so polite." Sun Simiao stroked his beard and laughed, pointing to a stool on the side. Zhang Feng sat down under the supercilious eyes of Yu Shinan and others. He automatically ignored the supercilious eyes of Yu Shinan and others. Boy, you did it on purpose, didn't you? Before Zhang Feng could sit down properly, Xueji looked at Zhang Feng and asked with a faint smile. Zhang Feng knew that these guys were going to ask this. He cupped his fists and said with a wry smile, "Oh, Mr. Sidong, you've wronged me. You don't know. I just finished dealing with Old Wei and others. How could I have time to come here?" Xueji said with a meaningful, "Oh," and then said, "So, these people are really loyal to you. How did you do it?" Zhang Feng was confused. What else was there? After thinking about it, Zhang Feng said, "Maybe they were all attracted by my handsomeness?" The people who were really listening were petrified. What kind of answer was that? Ahem, kid, what's with your attitude? As a great Confucian scholar, you have to have the attitude of a great Confucian scholar. We agreed to come here this time because we want to find a place to retire. By the way, you have too many bad habits. We have to get rid of them for you. Look. Look. You're finally showing your true colors, aren't you? Zhang Feng wanted to see what these old foxes were up to. From the moment he came up the mountain, he knew that these people were up to something. Although it looked like they were after paper, this was only one of their motives. Zhang Feng really did not know the real motive. At this moment, Yu Shinan stood up and walked over to Zhang Feng. He put away the smile on his face and stared at Zhang Feng solemnly. At this moment, Ouyang Sun, Chu Suiliang, and the others also stood up and stared at Zhang Feng with solemn expressions. Zhang Feng felt goosebumps all over his body. Kid, although you were jointly recommended by the four of us to become a great Confucian scholar, you also know that the condition for becoming a great Confucian scholar is to write your own book. Let's not talk about this for now. Your poetry collection can withstand the praise of all the scholars in the world. However, there are still more than 20 days until the Mid-Autumn Festival. Looking at your academy, it's about time. After the Mid-Autumn Festival, it will officially open. So since you call us teachers, we will express your sincerity. Although I don't know if you know the danger behind paper, the old man still has to say one thing. You must win the Mid-Autumn Poetry Meet. And this is also decided by us old guys. As long as you have the title of Great Confucian, there will naturally be no trouble for other things. You understand? If Zhang Feng still did not understand, then he was really a fool. He hurriedly stood up, and after a student's salute, he said seriously, "This student will follow teacher's instructions." Good. You are a promising student. Yu Shinan nodded, and said with his hands behind his back, "Do you know why everyone has a nameplate?" Nameplate? Zhang Feng really did not know this. He only knew that all literati like to give themselves a name, which was a pen name or the title of a book in the future. However, as for why some people's real names could not be remembered by others, but their pen names, he did not know. Forgive this student for being stupid, but I really did not know this. Zhang Feng hurriedly asked. Yu Shinan looked out of the window and said, "Old man does not know when this rule started, but it has become an unwritten rule. Since you have entered the civil service, then you must have a name plate. Did no one remind you of this before? Even your brother Lao Li did not mention it?" No. Zhang Feng honestly shook his head. In fact, he had thought of the name before, such as cool and awesome, he had thought of it before, but until now, he really did not think of a suitable one. This student has thought of this before, but because I was too busy, I forgot about it. Zhang Feng answered truthfully. The main thing was that the name he thought of was either too avant-garde or too hard to pronounce. He was also very troubled. So he simply threw this problem to Yu Shinan and the others. Since they said so, they must have thought about it long ago. Sure enough, after hearing Zhang Feng's words, they looked at each other and smiled. Then Yu Shinan slowly sighed and said, "Ridiculous, you actually forgot such an important thing? All right. Since you have become our disciple today, then old man and the others will help you with this matter." What should I call it? Yu Shinan pretended to ponder and patted his forehead, then said, "Since you made your fortune in the tavern, and you are from Phoenix Ridge, and your name is Zhang Feng, then in this case, we will call it." Zhang Feng's pupils instantly shrank, and he exclaimed, "Don't tell me it's Shifeng?" Chapter 783. West Phoenix. Once the name was decided, it would be better to call it Young Phoenix. It was simply too embarrassing. Just when Zhang Feng looked nervous, Yu Shinan said with a smile, "In fact, we have just discussed it with Dr. Sunday. Your nameplate will be called Wine Immortal. What do you think?" Wine Immortal? Zhang Feng was dizzy. He actually thought about this name when he brewed the liquor, but he was afraid that the name was too stiff. It was not good to be too ostentatious. Yu Shinan seemed to have noticed something as well. He smiled and said, "I've heard that the few times you've composed poems, they were all when you were drunk. Moreover, the baijiu you've brewed is worthy of this name. Perhaps in less than 20 days, your baijiu will be released. If you use this name, no one will dare to say anything, unless they don't want to drink baijiu anymore. But at least the few of us will be reluctant to give up this liquor." Ha ha ha. Yu Shinan and the others laughed as they spoke. In ancient times, there was wine god Du Kong. Today, there is wine immortal Zhang Feng. Moreover, you can not only brew beer or liquor, but the most important thing is that you can write poems. Who dares to say that you can write hundreds of poems while drunk? Who can compare to you? Sun Simiao couldn't help but sigh. That night, it was the first time that old man saw someone who was full of ideas. It was as if he had entered another level of advancement. To be able to sing in a state of selflessness, there must be at least 100 poems. This kind of thing is simply unprecedented. I'm afraid it will never happen again in the future, right? The most important thing is that this old man has thought about it carefully, and then deliberated with Brother Bo Shi and the others. Not only are these poems not repeated, but each poem is also a peerless work. Therefore, with this card, you are worthy of the title of Wine Immortal. It's settled, Wine Immortal. Old man educates people all his life. To be able to accept a Wine Immortal as a disciple at the end of his life is also the glory of my life, Yu Shinan. Ha ha ha, it's extremely true. It was decided just like that? Zhang Feng stared blankly at the old men who were so excited that they went crazy. It was decided just like that? Haven't you ever considered my feelings? Teacher, can I not have such a flashy signboard? Yu Shinan glanced at Zhang Feng. No, don't you think what you're doing now is not ostentatious enough? Look at your distinctionless education, the white paper, the white wine, and so on. Even the buildings of the academy are like a fairyland. Tell me, which part of you is not ostentatious? Why don't you tell us? Zhang Feng thought. He was really stunned. None of them could be thought of by modern people. However, this also reminded him that it was not good to be too ostentatious. He swore in his heart that at this moment, everyone on the mountain was his. They all drew their modeo and were on guard. As for Li Qingxian's personal bodyguard, when he heard the whistle, he used the whistle to hurriedly ask a few questions. After that, his expression changed greatly and he abruptly rushed into Zhang Feng's room, not caring about anything else. He hurriedly said, "Your Highness, young Master Zhang Feng was attacked." What? Hearing this, several people turned pale with fright. Li Qingxian asked with a pale face, "Tell me, what's going on? Are all of you incompetent? What's wrong with Fengzi?" "I don't know. What we know at present is that young Master Zhang Feng seems to have been poisoned. Dr. Sun is diagnosing him. Let's go. Chimo, light the beacons quickly and summon the garrison to surround Shao Mountain. Don't let even a fly go." Yes. At this time, no one cared about hiding their identity. Whether it was true or not, if the news of Fengzi being attacked was spread out, it would be a big deal. If the emperor was angry, none of them would have an easy time. Not to mention that he was the crown prince. How could they dare to delay? Qing Chimo shouted angrily and rushed out of the door with Wei Shuyu. Li Qingxian, Du Go, Zhang Sun, and Chong did not dare to delay for a moment. They hurriedly followed the leader of the Jianghu guards and rushed to the place where Zhang Feng was attacked. While running, Li Qingxian stared at the place where Zhang Feng was and prayed secretly in his heart, as well as the people who hurried to Zhang Feng's place after hearing the news. "Brat, you've got to be kidding me. Please don't let anything happen to him." Today, at the foot of the mountain, the person in Tonghui Square had already handed over the thing that Zhang Feng asked them to. They had also studied it for a long time, although they did not know what it was. But from the serious expression on Zhang Feng's face when that person described it, they knew that it was not something good. After learning that it was deliberately given to Zhang Feng by someone, Li Qingxian was angry. After finding someone to torture that person, he found out that this thing was a kind of thing called immortal ointment. Although that person did not know what it was, someone had indeed arranged for him to deliver it to Zhang Feng. He was a black-clothed merchant from the Abbasid Caliphate. But because the journey was long, he wanted to get some rare items back from Chang'an. Thus, he encountered a group of people, while his thoughts were running wild. Li Qingxian and the others also rushed into the impenetrable crowd. After squeezing through the crowd, Li Qingxian's face paled. Without caring about anything else, Li Qingxian asked, "Divine Doctor Sun, what happened to Fengzi?" Chapter 786. Zhang Feng didn't expect this either. A dignified dean had actually suffered such a great humiliation today. He was stripped naked in front of everyone, and then his body was pricked like a hedgehog. Even now, he had been carried back by Li Qingxian and the others for 2 hours, but Zhang Feng still felt bursts of pain in his stomach, legs, and back. This was simply a sad thing. Especially after seeing Sun Simiao's solemn face and the laughter of Yu Shinan and the others as they left, Zhang Feng really wanted to faint. It was so embarrassing. Lying on the bed, Zhang Feng glared at Gao Ken angrily. "Tell me, did you do it on purpose today?" Gao Ken was also somewhat baffled. But he also felt a little guilty. "Dean, I didn't do it because you were bullied a few times before. Didn't you do it with these people early this morning? I thought they were up to no good." Up to no good? This principal was just messing around with them. What's more, this thing wasn't poisoned. Come, where are my cigarettes? Did you bring them back?" Zhang Feng was so angry that he wanted to punch someone, but when he moved, his whole body hurt. He just waved his hand angrily. Seeing Zhang Feng like this, Gao Ken felt even more ashamed. After wiping his body, he remembered and said, "That thing was taken away by Dr. Sun, go. There are some on the table outside. Give me 2. Today, Lao Tzu is going to poison you to death." Zhang Feng was so angry that he didn't know what to say. He had the urge to chase this guy down the mountain. Zhang Feng was very suspicious whether this guy was the famous General Gao Ken recorded in the history of later generations. This guy was simply an idiot who couldn't even be bothered to look at the situation. I'm coming. When he was really thinking about whether to drive him away or send him away, Gao Ken hurried in with 2 big cigars. It was as if he had caught 2 poisonous snakes. Zhang Feng speechlessly snatched the cigar from Gao Ken's hand and lit it. This time, he carefully took a puff. Instantly, the strong taste of tobacco swirled in his mouth. That feeling made Zhang Feng moan involuntarily. Although the taste was a little strong, this was the Motherf Ker's taste. After Zhang Feng took a few puffs, his head felt a little dizzy. He looked at the nervous Gao Ken and pointed at the oil lamp with the hand holding the cigarette. "Look at Lao Tzu now. Is there anything wrong?" Gao Ken shook his head vigorously. "Then, light it up. I'll give you your first lesson today." When Gao Ken heard that Zhang Feng was going to give him his first lesson, he was excited. He imitated Zhang Feng and put the end of the cigar in his mouth. Then, he moved closer to the light and carefully sucked. At first, he felt like he was being burned by smoke. He was a little puzzled. The expressions of Li Qingxian and the others also changed. "Feng Zi, is what you said true? Then, isn't this the thing that eats people's minds?" Zhang Feng nodded with a serious expression. "That's why I said that this thing cannot be left. Now, I'll give you a task. You must pass this matter to your father as soon as possible and let him report it to the authorities. Immediately seize this thing. Don't ask why, you just need to know that I, Feng Zi, will not harm you. Do you understand?" Although they didn't know if Zhang Feng was exaggerating, everyone couldn't help but feel their hearts go numb when they looked at that pitch-black thing. Who would dare to test whether it was real or fake after knowing the effects of this thing? If something happened, wouldn't that be, "Don't worry, I've already made arrangements for this matter. But I suspect that this is a trap. Li Qingxian covered his nose and frowned as he looked at the smoke in the room. Could it be that you knew from the beginning? Yes. Zhang Feng confidently flicked the ash from his cigarette and said, think about it, I'm the ancestor of scheming. This idiot gave you something that you've never seen before. As long as you're not crazy, you'll know that there's something wrong with this thing itself. So, do you think that I wouldn't know that they gave me this thing in front of me? Besides, I've seen this thing before. My master once brought back a little of this thing when he was traveling overseas. He wanted to tell me where the harm of this thing was. So, everyone, let me give you a piece of advice. If you're my brothers, find out where this thing is and burn it. It's best if you can find the source. Even if it means slaughtering the entire city, you'll destroy the entire country. If you have connections, go buy a death row prisoner. Try it and you'll know how terrifying this thing is. The more they listened, Li Qingxian and the others felt that this thing was terrifying. Even someone like Zhang Feng dared to use words like slaughtering the entire city to describe the horror of this thing. One could only imagine how terrifying this thing was. Li Qingxian took a deep breath and said, don't worry about this. When we found out that this person was up to no good, we've already informed Father. I believe that with Father's ability and Lord Jiangxuan's Ministry of Personnel, this thing will be found very quickly. Zhang Feng heard this and thought about it. That was true. It was good to have connections with people from the Ministry of Personnel. This matter could be considered solved. As for the death row prisoner, that was the most worthless thing in this era. As long as Lao Li wanted to get it, Zhang Sun Wuji only needed to say a word. Thinking of this, Zhang Feng slowly took out a few cigars from a cabinet in the corner. He held the cigars in his mouth and handed one to each of them. Come. This is a rare treasure. Chapter 789. Yu Shinan and the others' eyes lit up when they heard this. Even those who were squatting and eating couldn't help but have waves of greed and envy flicker in their eyes when they heard this. The point was that the dean's chicken was too delicious. Sun Simiao looked at the crowd, shook his head and sighed. There were too few chickens now. Although there were hundreds of thousands of chickens on the mountain, he didn't know what that guy was going to do. He was only allowed to eat 1,000 chickens a day, including those in the restaurants at the foot of the mountain. So it was difficult to eat the beggar's chicken now. Even he could only eat it once every 3 to 5 days. But a few days ago, he heard that there were less than 200,000 chickens left on the mountain. If the food problem couldn't be solved, even if these chickens were boiled into chicken soup and mixed in porridge, they couldn't stand the consumption. At this time, he didn't know if the woman would cause any trouble by saying that she would let them eat chicken in public. But since she had said it, he couldn't do anything. After all, he was just a guest. Let's go and see if there is any good wine in Feng Zi's house. Let's go and get some. As Sun Simiao spoke, he patted Yu Shinan's shoulder. Only then did the group slowly walk towards Zhang Feng's cabin, hands clasped behind their backs. Walking on the right side, Yu Shinan and others looked at this person's bowl from time to time. It seemed that they wanted to find something different in these bowls. However, looking at it, he was still amazed. Elder son, this doesn't look like the bone-strengthening powder you made. Chu Suiliang asked with a smile. Sun Simiao shook his head and pointed to Zhang Feng. The bone-strengthening powder and this stuff are not made by me. It's that guy. Chu Suiliang was shocked when he heard that. He had eaten the bone-strengthening powder. Although the porridge smelled like the bone-strengthening powder at this time, it looked different from the bone-strengthening powder. There were even a lot of things inside, such as meat, pork, and even some pig bones, eggs, and other things. However, when he thought about how these things, which were rumored to be able to last an entire day, were made by Zhang Feng. Chu Suiliang was truly shocked. Old son, are you certain that these things were made by this brat? Chu Suiliang and the other two asked in shock. Yu Shinan stroked his beard and curled his lips. The old man mentioned this in his letter. Didn't you read it? They automatically filtered out Yu Shinan's words. Instead, he looked at Sun Simiao with a solemn expression. They had all read Yu Shinan's letter, but they wouldn't believe that these things came from Zhang Feng even if they were beaten to death. Who didn't know that Sun Simiao was the recognized divine medicine? If these things didn't come from him, who would dare to believe it? Yes. Sun Simiao made the final decision. Then, following Zhang Feng's instructions, they lit the firewood tobacco and took a light puff. Zhang Feng didn't dare to let these old men smoke like Li Gan did. If they didn't smoke at all, they would be dead meat if they choked and gave it away. Moreover, if they recovered, wouldn't this thing be smashed in their hands? Zhang Feng was still counting on them to sell this thing. Master Bashi, you're mistaken. You have to take small sips. No, don't bite it. Keep it in your mouth, Mr. Sidong, you're wrong. Don't swallow, cough, cough, cough. When Zhang Feng turned to look, he saw that Xueji was about to swallow the firewood tobacco in one big puff. Zhang Feng was so scared that he hurriedly shouted, but it was too late. Xueji had already swallowed it, but Zhang Feng said that it was urgent, so Xueji was stunned for a moment. That moment could be said to have saved his life and Zhang Feng's life. Xueji exhaled more than half of the smoke, but the remaining smoke still made Xueji cough violently at this time. Even his face was flushed. Zhang Feng was so scared that he hurriedly went up to pat him on the back and hurriedly poured tea for him. After a while, Xueji finally recovered his strength. The others also stared at him with their old eyes. Old Sidong, what do you think? This, how is this cigarette? Xueji smacked his lips and felt for a moment before giving a thumbs up. Awesome. Although it was a little uncomfortable just now, I feel 100 times more energetic now. You all know that I have to take a nap at this time every day. But once this thing twitches, let alone sleep, even if you ask me to recite poems with you, I can recite poems with you late into the night. When the others heard this, they couldn't help but look at the cigarette in their hands and were shocked. They just thought that it was their illusion, but now? They all felt the same. When Sun Simiao heard this, he didn't say a word. He took the lighter from Zhang Feng's hand and lit the cigarette. Half an hour. 2 hours. 2 hours later, when Li Qingxian and the others stood up dizzily, they were stunned. They saw that in Zhang Feng's living room, Yu Shinan and the others, with cigarettes in their mouths, were locked in a game of cards. They couldn't help but be stunned. Is this a dream? I must be dreaming. Is this still the Mr. Bosher I know? Chapter 793. What kind of demons and ghosts are these? Barbarian Nyo? He might as well call the gadfly. It was as if this old Yu was someone who walked the same path as him. The first time they met, they were both so eye-catching. Although he thought so, Zhang Feng still smiled and cupped his fists. So it's old Nyo. Come, please sit. It's a pity that there's no wine on the mountain. Otherwise, we'd have to drink to our heart's content today. This was Zhang Feng's specialty. But how could old Niu not know? Old Niu was Niu Jinda, who was known as one of the 5 war gods of the Tang dynasty along with Qing Yao Jin, Yu Qigong, Qin Xiong, and Li Jing. He was also the general who had always been in charge of Qiuzi. This time, he returned to the capital. It was mainly because of the matter of sending troops to India, as well as the firearms, the impenetrable shield, and the invincible spear that he had been longing for. The moment he returned to the capital, he heard the most about the mountain. In the end, after Niu Jinda entered the palace to meet the emperor, Li Shimin directly pointed to the mountain. Go, let Yuqi bring you up the mountain. You personally go to that kid and ask for the firearms. It was this sentence that caused Niu Jinda to waste 3 days at the residences of Qing Yao Jin, Yu Qigong, and Qin Xiong. It was also during these 3 days that Niu Jinda was shocked by Zhang Feng's name. When he learned that several people in the imperial court, including the retired emperor, had become brothers with this kid, he was shocked. That was why he didn't treat Zhang Feng as an outsider and treated him as his own home the moment he entered the house. After the 3 of them sat on the balcony outside the house, Yu Qigong said, "Last time, you said that my share, no, there's no room for discussion. You also know that my paper mill only makes a little profit. Look at the mountain. Old you, look at it personally. This business is huge. It can't be any more." Yu Qigong glared. Who said that he wants your paper mill? Today, I personally sent my son and old Niu's son to the mountain to report. Oh right, we beat the gatekeeper at the foot of the mountain. Is that okay? Zhang Feng was petrified. Who did you hit? Looking at Yu Qigong's burly appearance, Zhang Feng seriously wondered if this guy could break a rock with a single punch. If he could punch someone, then, that person isn't dead, right? Zhang Feng continued asking. It's nothing. I just knocked him out with a slap. He's too weak. Do I, old you, need to report my arrival? This guy still dares to block the way. Not killing him is already giving you a lot of face. Who did you hit? I don't know, but I heard that his name is Zhu Zi. He is from Tong Huifang. I have already sent someone to send him 1,000 tubes of money and 300 dawn of food. They will be sent to the mountain at sunset. You can arrange it as you see fit. Chapter 794. While smoking, Yu Qigong asked, Fengzi, this cigarette? Zhang Feng looked alert. Don't even think about it. It's not the time to produce it. Now it's only enough for the consumption of the mountain and the needs of your masters. I can't do anything more. After I'm done with the academy, I'll make it in the factory. With one more sentence, he retorted Yu Qigong's words. It wasn't that he didn't want to make it. It was that the tobacco had not arrived yet. With so many things on hand, he was so annoyed that he didn't have time to do anything else. The paper mill was basically on the right track now. But there were too many things that needed improvement. For example, toilet paper, the production machines, the preparation of the memory branch, and so on. Although he didn't need to worry much about them, the most troublesome thing was that he hadn't taught Xian Wanli everything about the research and development. Another thing was the new textbooks of the academy. The teaching building of the academy had begun to be painted. School would start in less than a month. Where would the books come from? These were all problems. Seeing that Zhang Feng didn't want to say anything more about this matter, Yu Qigong didn't say anything more. Instead, Niu Jinda asked, I heard from Laoli that you've set up a workshop. I came back this time because of the firearms. I also found some top blacksmiths from the western region. They're good at pouring and some locksmiths. I spent a lot of money to get them. I wonder if they can help you. Zhang Feng was overjoyed when he heard this. The pouring method of the western region was actually using wax molds. Although this kind of skill existed in the Tang dynasty, some things had to be made by Tubo's craftsmen. It wasn't that the Tang dynasty couldn't make it, but the skills mastered by the people of the Tang dynasty were different from the skills of the western region. If the two sides were combined, there might be a way. The reason why the workshop hadn't started yet was that Zhang Feng was worried about these things. He didn't expect old Niu to give him such a big gift. However, in terms of loyalty, Zhang Feng was still a little worried. He could not help but ask, "Old bull, this thing of mine is..." How could Niu Jinda not know what Zhang Feng was going to say? He waved his hand and interrupted him. He took a puff of his cigarette and said, "You can rest assured about this. I have their slave contracts with me." As he spoke, Niu Jinda waved his hand outside. "Brats, come in and meet your future teacher." Didn't they say that it was a slave contract? Zhang Feng was dumbfounded. She looked at the three burly men standing in the room. Two of them looked very similar to Yu Qigong. Needless to say, they were old Yu's sons. As for the other one, although he looked strong, he had a face that didn't belong to his size. Well, how should he put it?